The city breathes, but it never truly sleeps. Below, headlights bleed across wet pavement, a river of restless light, and the distant wail of a siren is a lonely cry in the concrete canyons. High above this hum, in a quiet room, you lie awake. The city's noise is a distant murmur, but the storm inside your own mind is a roar. It speaks of deadlines and bills, of conversations that ended badly, of words you wish you had said, and others you wish you could take back. It speaks of the relentless pressure to be more, to achieve more, to have more, a constant, nagging feeling that you are somehow falling behind in a race you don't remember choosing to run. This is not your story alone. It is the quiet suffering of a world that has mastered the art of moving faster, but has forgotten how to be still. This inner storm is more than just stress. It is a deep and subtle exhaustion, a sense of being adrift. We fill our lives with things, with goals, with digital noise and endless striving, believing that the next achievement, the next purchase, the next milestone will finally deliver the peace we crave. Yet, so often, we arrive at that destination only to find the emptiness has traveled with us, a silent passenger on our frantic journey. We are caught in a cycle, chasing a horizon that always recedes, fueled by a thirst that is never quenched. We have built a world of external wonders, but inside, many of us feel homeless. But what if the solution was never about escaping the storm? What if it was about learning to find the eye of the hurricane, the point of stillness that exists within the chaos itself? For thousands of years, a path has been illuminated, a quiet wisdom passed down through generations, offering not a religion to be blindly followed, but a set of practical, profound tools for understanding the landscape of our own minds. It offers a way to gently, compassionately look at the storm, to understand what feeds its power, and to discover how to let its winds and rains pass through us without destroying our inner landscape. This journey, tonight, is an invitation to listen, an invitation to allow these ancient words to be a gentle rain on the hardened soil of your worries, to sink in as you drift towards sleep, planting the seeds of a peace that does not depend on the world outside, but blossoms, quietly and surely, from within. To begin our journey into the quiet, we must first be unflinchingly honest about the noise. We must dare to look directly at the storm we wish to calm. In the ancient language of this path, this pervasive sense of struggle, this inner friction, is given a name. That name is dukkha. Now, the word dukkha is often translated simply as suffering, and this translation, while not entirely wrong, can be misleading. It brings to mind images of great tragedy, of immense and dramatic pain. And while dukkha certainly includes these things, its meaning is far deeper, far more subtle, and far more relevant to our everyday lives. Think of it less as a dramatic wound, and more as a constant, low-grade fever of the soul. It is the background hum of anxiety on an otherwise peaceful day. It is the subtle tension in your shoulders as you read an email from your boss. It is the fleeting shadow of dissatisfaction that crosses your mind, even in a moment of joy. It is the feeling that something is fundamentally, existentially, just a little bit off. The first step on this path, the first of what are called the Four Noble Truths, is the courageous acknowledgement of dukkha. This is not a pessimistic statement. It is not a surrender to despair. It is the opposite. It is an act of supreme bravery and radical honesty. It is the moment a physician correctly diagnoses an illness. The diagnosis is not the illness itself, but the very first, most essential step toward a cure. To refuse the diagnosis is to allow the illness to fester in the dark. To accept it is to bring it into the light, where it can be understood, treated, and ultimately healed. So let us, for a few moments, be brave physicians of our own hearts and minds. Let us look at the nature of this dukkha, not with fear or judgment, but with a gentle, scientific curiosity. The Buddha described dukkha in three distinct, yet interwoven layers. The first is the most obvious, the kind we immediately recognize as pain. This is called dukkha dukkha, or simply, the suffering of suffering. This is the sharp, undeniable pain of a headache, the deep ache of a broken heart, the grief that comes with the loss of a loved one. It is the sting of harsh words, the frustration of failure, the anxiety of facing uncertainty. It is birth, sickness, old age, and death. These are the unavoidable pains of having a human body and a human heart. No amount of positive thinking or material wealth can build a fortress that will keep these experiences out entirely. They are part of the contract of being alive. This is the raw, visceral aspect of the inner storm, the crashing waves and the piercing wind that we can all feel. It is real, it is valid, and pretending it doesn't exist is a form of violence against our own experience. It is here that we encounter one of the most practical teachings on the nature of pain. It is the story of the second arrow. The Buddha taught that in life, we cannot always avoid the first arrow. A first arrow might be an illness, a betrayal by a friend, losing a job, or simply the daily frustrations of life. It strikes us, and it causes pain. This pain is unavoidable. However, most of our true suffering, the kind that lingers and poisons our mind, comes from a second arrow which we fire at ourselves. The first arrow is the event. The second arrow is our reaction to the event. The first arrow is the sharp pain of being criticized. The second arrow is the story we tell ourselves about it for hours, days, or even years afterward. I am a failure. That person hates me. I always mess things up. My life is ruined. The first arrow is the physical sensation of pain in our body. The second arrow is the mental anguish, the fear, and the panic. What if this never goes away? I can't bear this. Why is this happening to me? We add layers of anger, resentment, self-pity, and fear on top of the initial clean pain. This is the self-generated part of suffering. The practice of mindfulness, which we will explore, is the art of learning to feel the sting of the first arrow without firing the second one. It is about learning to simply be with the raw data of our experience, without adding a layer of painful narrative on top of it. This distinction is crucial, because while we may have little control over the first arrow, we have a profound capacity to choose not to fire the second. The second layer of dukkha is more subtle and perhaps even more pervasive in our modern world of endless seeking. It is called viparinama dukkha, the suffering of change. This is the stress and anxiety that comes from the fact that all pleasant experiences are temporary. It is the suffering hidden within happiness itself. Think of a perfect, beautiful moment, a golden sunset, the laughter of a child, the thrill of falling in love, the satisfaction of achieving a long-sought goal. These moments are wonderful, but they are all impermanent. They arise, they exist for a time, and then they fade. The dukkha of change is that subtle, underlying anxiety that comes from knowing this. It's the desperate clinging to the pleasant moment, trying to freeze it in time. It's the fear of losing what we have. The new car will one day be old. The perfect health will one day fade. The passionate love will evolve and change. Our youth will vanish. The happiness we derive from these temporary states is fragile, and our deep, intuitive knowledge of its fragility creates a background hum of tension. We are like children at the beach, frantically trying to build a sand castle, all the while knowing the tide is coming in. This clinging to what must inevitably change is a primary source of our anxiety. We live in a culture that tells us to seek and acquire peak experiences, but it doesn't teach us how to relate to them with wisdom, how to enjoy them fully without clinging, and how to let them go gracefully when their time is up. This constant, exhausting effort to hold on to the unholdable is a deep and powerful current within our inner storm. This leads us to the third and most profound layer, sankhara, dukkha, the suffering of conditioned states. This is the deepest, most subtle form of dukkha. It isn't about a painful event or a pleasant event changing. It is about the fundamental underlying unsatisfactoriness of existence itself, moment to moment. It is the baseline friction of being alive as a separate, fragile self in a world of constant flux. It is the stress of having to maintain an identity, a personality, an ego, day in and day out. It's the energy it takes to be you. It's the feeling of being a composite being, made up of constantly shifting thoughts, emotions, memories, and physical sensations, with no solid, permanent core to be found. Sankhara dukkha is the deep-seated recognition that because everything is conditioned, meaning everything arises because of other causes and conditions it, is all inherently unstable and unreliable as a source of lasting peace. It is the background restlessness that that makes us reach for our phone, turn on the television, or seek any distraction to avoid simply being still with ourselves. It is that vague feeling that something is missing, even when life is, by all external measures, going well. It is the very fabric of the storm, the atmospheric pressure of an unenlightened existence that gives rise to the more visible winds and rains of the first two kinds of dukkha. It is the most difficult to see, but it is the most important to understand, for it is the very root of our disease. These three forms of dukkha are not separate, but flow into one another, creating the full experience of our inner turmoil. A physical illness, dukkha, makes us painfully aware that our health, a pleasant condition, is temporary, viparinama dukkha, and this whole experience highlights our fundamental vulnerability and the fragile nature of our existence, sankhara dukkha. We get a promotion at work, a pleasant experience, but we immediately begin to worry about the new responsibilities and the fear of failing, of losing this new status, viparinama dukkha, which feeds into our general, background anxiety about our own competence and worth, sankhara dukkha. So you see, looking at our life through this lens is not about labeling everything as bad. It is about seeing with clarity. It is about understanding the mechanics of our own mind and heart. To name dukkha, to see it clearly in all its forms, is to stop being its victim. It is to shift from being lost in the storm to becoming the observer of the storm. And this shift, this simple, courageous act of looking, contains the seed of our liberation. It is the first noble step away from the noise and toward the quiet. You have not been asked to fix anything or change anything. You have simply been invited to look, and by accepting that invitation, by allowing these truths to settle in your mind as you rest, you have already begun to calm the storm. You have taken the brave, necessary first step on the path to peace. Having looked with gentle honesty at the nature of our inner storm, having named it dukkha, we do not turn away in despair. We lean in closer, with the calm curiosity of a detective seeking not to blame, but to understand. The first noble truth diagnoses the symptom. The second noble truth, known as samudaya, points directly to its cause. It answers the fundamental question: where does this pervasive sense of dissatisfaction, this deep and subtle friction in our lives, actually come from? The wisdom of this path offers an answer that is at once startlingly simple and profoundly deep. The root of dukkha, the fuel that feeds the storm, is a single powerful force within us. It is called tanha. Tanha is a word that translates as thirst, craving, desire, or clinging. It is not the gentle wishing for a friend to be well, or the wholesome desire to be a better person. Tanha is a deeper, more primal force. It is a compulsive, feverish thirst. It is the deep-seated impulse to grasp at what we find pleasant, to push away what we find unpleasant, and to be ignorant of everything else. It is the engine of our restlessness, the insatiable hunger that keeps the mind running, seeking, and striving, never allowing it to come to rest. This thirst, this tanha, is not some external enemy that attacks us. It is a process that arises from within our own hearts and minds, moment by moment. And like a master physician, the Buddha identified three distinct forms of this thirst, three primary channels through which this restless energy flows and creates the conditions for our suffering. As you listen, see if you can recognize these forces at play in the quiet theater of your own experience. The first, and most easily recognizable, is kama tanha, the thirst for sense pleasures. This is the craving for the mind and body to be constantly stimulated by pleasant experiences. It is the desire for a beautiful sight, a captivating sound, a delicious taste, a pleasant smell, an agreeable touch. In our modern world, this form of thirst is amplified and exploited at every turn. It is the engine of consumerism, the lifeblood of advertising. It is the endless scroll through social media feeds, searching for the next interesting image, the next entertaining video, the next piece of validation. It is the craving for the comfort of our favorite food, the escape of binge-watching a television series, the thrill of a new purchase. The problem, this wisdom teaches, is not with the pleasant experiences themselves. A beautiful sunset is not the problem. A delicious meal is not the problem. The problem is the thirst. It is the clinging, the dependency, the belief that our happiness is located in these external things. When we believe this, we are setting ourselves up for inevitable disappointment, for this is the suffering of change we spoke of earlier. The delicious meal ends. The entertaining show is over. The new gadget becomes old. The pleasure fades, as all things do. And when it fades, the thirst remains, now unquenched and agitated, immediately setting off in search of its next fix. This is how we become trapped in a cycle of endless, seeking and fleeting satisfaction, like trying to quench a thirst by drinking salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. The second form of this thirst is deeper, and it is arguably the master architect of our modern sense of self. It is called bhavatana, the thirst for being, or the craving for existence. This is not just the basic instinct for survival. It is the deep, psychological craving to become someone, to solidify our identity, to carve out a permanent and impressive self in a world of flux. It is the fuel for our ambition. It is the craving for status, for recognition, for fame, for power. It is the desire to be seen as intelligent, or successful, or righteous, or special. It is the constant internal monologue of self-improvement that is not aimed at genuine wisdom, but at constructing a more impressive ego. Bhavatana is what drives us to meticulously curate our online profiles, to compare our lives to the lives of others, to feel the sting of envy and the swell of pride. It is the desperate desire for our story to matter, for our life to have a certain narrative arc, for our sandcastle to be admired and to last forever. This thirst for being is exhausting because it is a battle against the fundamental nature of reality. It is an attempt to make something permanent, our ego, our identity, out of things that are inherently impermanent. Our thoughts, our feelings, our roles, our reputation. This craving to be, to exist in a specific, solidified way, is what makes us so sensitive to criticism, so afraid of failure, and so anxious about the future. It is the very source of our need to control things, to manage perceptions, and to defend our opinions as if our very existence depended on them. The third form of thirst might seem paradoxical, but it is the shadow side of the other two. It is vibhava tanha, the thirst for non-existence, or the craving for annihilation. When the thirst for sense pleasures is frustrated, and the thirst for being is wounded, this craving often arises. It is the intense desire to get rid of an unpleasant experience. It is the desperate push against reality. When we feel pain, physical or emotional, vibhavatanya is the voice that screams, "I want this to stop. I can't stand this." It is the impulse to numb ourselves, to escape. In its more mundane forms, it's the urge to have a drink after a hard day, to lose ourselves in mindless activity, to pick a fight to discharge a feeling of frustration, or to simply check out mentally. It is the deep wish that a painful feeling, a difficult memory, or an uncomfortable situation would simply cease to exist. At its most extreme, this thirst for non-existence can manifest as self-harm or suicidal thoughts, the ultimate desire to annihilate the self that is perceived as the source of the pain. But all these actions, from the smallest distraction to the most tragic final act, are fueled by the same root energy, the inability to simply be with what is unpleasant and the desperate craving for it to be otherwise. It is the other side of the coin of clinging. We cling to the pleasant and we try to annihilate the unpleasant. Both are forms of tanha, both are a struggle against the natural flow of life, and both are a profound source of our dukkha. So we have these three powerful currents of thirst running through us: the pull toward pleasure, the drive to become, and the push away from pain. They are the true source of the storm. The outside world, the people, the events, the objects are not the ultimate cause of our suffering. They are merely the triggers. The ultimate cause is our own internal reaction, our own deep-seated, conditioned thirst. This is a revolutionary and empowering insight. If the cause of our suffering were purely external, we would be helpless victims, forever at the mercy of a chaotic world. But if the cause is internal, if it is our own craving, then the solution is also within our grasp. It means we have agency. It means we can do something about it. There is a simple and ancient story that perfectly illustrates this. In some parts of Asia, monkeys are trapped using a clever device. A coconut is hollowed out and chained to a stake. A small hole is drilled in the coconut, just big enough for a monkey to slide its open hand in. Inside the coconut, some rice or a sweet treat is placed. The monkey, driven by its desire, will come along, smell the treat, and slip its hand into the coconut to grasp the rice. But when it tries to pull its hand out, its clenched fist, now full of rice, is too big to pass back through the hole. It is trapped. It will pull and shriek and struggle, sometimes for hours, but it will not be free. The trap is not the coconut. The chains are not the trap. The monkey is not being held by any external force. It is being held by its own clenched fist, by its own craving. The moment it chooses to let go of the rice, to open its hand, it can slide its hand out with ease and be free. We are that monkey. The coconut is the world with all its alluring possibilities. The rice is the objects of our craving, the pleasure, the status, the escape we so desperately desire. And our suffering, our feeling of being trapped, is simply the tension of our own clenched fist, our own refusal to let go. The cause of our entanglement is not the world, but our clinging to it. The path to freedom is not about destroying the coconut, but about simply, gently opening our hand. As you rest now, let this image settle into your mind. See the patterns of your own thirst, not with judgment, but with the same gentle understanding you would have for the trapped monkey. See the clenching around pleasure, the clenching around your identity, the clenching that pushes pain away. You don't need to force your hand open. For now, the work is simply to become aware of the clench, to feel it, to know it. This knowing, this gentle awareness, is the beginning of loosening the grip. And in that loosening lies the promise of peace. We have walked together into the heart of the storm, looking with courage at the nature of our restlessness, our dukkha. We have traced the storm's origins, not to the world outside, but to a powerful thirst within, the deep, internal craving we call tanha. To stop here would be to leave the diagnosis half-finished, to leave the detective with a culprit, but no sense of justice, no resolution. It would paint a picture of the human condition as a locked room, a prison of our own making. But this is not the full picture. It is not the final word. The journey does not end with the discovery of the cause of our suffering. That discovery is merely the key that unlocks the door to the most hopeful and liberating realization of all. This is the third noble truth, the truth of Nirodha. Nirodha is a word that translates as cessation, ending, or extinction. It is the profound and radical declaration that the inner storm can be calmed, that the fever of thirst can break, and that a state of lasting peace, freedom, and profound well-being is not a fantasy, but an attainable human reality. It is the light at the end of the tunnel, a light that has been waiting for you to see it all along. First, it is vital to understand what this peace, often called nibbana or nirvana, is not. Hearing words like cessation or extinction, our minds can leap to fearful conclusions. Nibbana is not a heaven in the clouds, a paradise you can only enter after you die. It is not a reward for being good, nor is it a cold, empty void, a bleak annihilation of the self into nothingness. It is not a state of being an unfeeling zombie, detached and indifferent to the world. These are misconceptions born of a mind that is still accustomed to thinking in terms of having and not having, of being and not being. The peace of Nibbana is something else entirely. It transcends these dualities. It is the discovery of a different way of being altogether, a way that is available to you in this very life, right here, right now, in the midst of your ordinary world. It is not about going somewhere else, but about realizing what is possible right where you are, once the clouds of the storm have parted. So what is it? Nirodha, the cessation of suffering, is the ending of tanha. It is the uprooting of that insatiable thirst for pleasure, that anxious thirst to become someone, and that desperate thirst to get rid of pain. It is the mind freed from its addiction to grasping and pushing away. Imagine you have been holding a heavy weight in your hand for your entire life. You are so used to the strain in your arm, the tension in your shoulder, the constant effort of holding it, that you have come to believe this tension is a normal part of who you are. Nirodha, is the moment you realize you can simply open your hand and put the weight down. The resulting feeling is not emptiness, but an incredible lightness. It is relief. It is freedom. The arm is not annihilated. It is simply returned to its natural, restful state. In the same way, when the mind puts down the heavy weight of craving, it is not destroyed. It is simply allowed to return to its own intrinsic nature, which is luminous, clear, and peaceful. It is the monkey finally unclenching its fist. It is stepping off the frantic hamster wheel of seeking and finding for good. The ancient metaphor for nibbana is that of an extinguished flame. The word nibbana itself literally means to blow out or to quench. Think of our suffering, our dukkha, as a fire. This fire rages and sputters, causing heat and distress. What is the fuel for this fire? The fuel is tanha. The thirst for sense pleasures is like throwing dry kindling onto the flames. The thirst for being and becoming is like pouring oil on it, making it flare up with the heat of pride and ambition. The thirst to annihilate pain is the frantic fanning of the flames, trying to blow them out, which only gives them more oxygen to burn hotter. The path of wisdom does not teach us to hate the fire or to fear it. It teaches us to stop feeding it. Through mindfulness and insight, we begin to see the fuel as it is, and we simply stop adding it to the fire. We stop reaching for the next piece of kindling. We stop pouring the oil of ego onto it. And what happens to a fire when it is no longer fed fuel? It does not go anywhere. It does not travel to a different dimension. It simply, naturally, peacefully ceases to burn. The heat subsides. The agitation is gone. What is left is not a black void, but a cool, calm clarity. This is Nirodha. It is the quenching of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. What does this state of peace feel like? Words are only pointers, like fingers pointing at the moon, but they can give us a sense of the destination. It is described as a supreme peace, an unshakable calm that does not depend on whether the outside world is pleasant or unpleasant. It is like the deep ocean, which remains profoundly still in its depths, even while the surface is battered by waves and storms. It is a profound sense of security that comes not from building walls around you, but from realizing there is nothing inside of you that can truly be threatened. It is a state of radiant clarity, of seeing the world and yourself with a pristine, unfiltered awareness, free from the distortions of your desires and fears. Imagine looking at the world through a dirty, warped window for your whole life, and then suddenly, the window is perfectly clean. You see the true colors, the true shapes, for the first time. This is the clarity of a mind free from tanha. And above all, it is freedom. It is vimutti, liberation. It is freedom from the endless cycle of reaction. It is freedom from being a puppet to your own likes and dislikes. It is the freedom of not needing the world to be any different than it is in this moment for you to be at peace. It is the freedom of the sky, which allows clouds of all shapes and sizes, joy, sorrow, anger, fear to drift through it without being stained or diminished by them. The sky does not cling to the beautiful white clouds or push away the dark storm clouds. It provides an unconditional, open space for all of it. This is the freedom of the awakened heart. This third noble truth is the most empowering message imaginable. It is a declaration of your innate potential. It says that suffering is not your core identity. It is not an original sin or a permanent stain on your soul. It is a conditioned process, like an illness, and because it has a cause, it has a cure. You are not fundamentally broken. You are not doomed to a life of anxiety and dissatisfaction. The capacity for profound peace is your birthright. It is the natural state of a mind that has been unburdened. To know that such a state is possible transforms the entire journey. It is no longer a grim struggle against a terrible fate. It becomes a hopeful, intelligent, and compassionate process of uncovering the peace that is already here, buried beneath the noise of the storm. We have now seen the illness, dukkha. We have understood its cause, tanha, and now we have the physician's confident prognosis. A cure is possible, Nirodha. The diagnosis is complete. The hope is established. The only remaining question, the most practical question of all, is this: what is the medicine? What is the precise, step-by-step treatment plan that leads from the storm to the calm, from thirst to its quenching, from suffering to freedom. That treatment plan, that map, is the subject of our next discovery. We have arrived at a place of profound hope. We have looked into the storm of our lives, the truth of dukkha, and have not flinched. We have identified its source, the inner thirst of tanha, not as an invincible monster, but as a conditioned, understandable process. And we have seen the light of a possible dawn, the truth of nirodha, the radical promise that this storm can cease, and that a state of unshakable peace is our innate potential. A diagnosis has been made, a cause identified, and a cure has been declared possible. All that is missing is the prescription. What, precisely, is the medicine? How, exactly, do we walk from the shores of dissatisfaction to the land of lasting peace? The answer lies in the fourth and final noble truth, the truth of Magga, the path. This is the Buddha's ultimate gift of compassion, a complete, practical, and deeply detailed map for the journey of human liberation. It is called the Noble Eightfold Path. Before we explore its components, it is essential to understand what this path is and what it is not. It is not a rigid list of commandments to be obeyed out of fear. It is not a linear sequence of steps where you must perfect step 1 before moving to step 2. It is something far more organic, more holistic. Think of it less like a ladder and more like the 8 strands of a single powerful rope. Each strand is distinct, yet each one is woven together with the others, giving the rope its strength. As you strengthen one strand, you find the others become stronger too. It is a living path, a way of being, seeing, and acting that touches every single aspect of your life. It is a path to be walked, not a doctrine to be believed. Its truth is found not in books, but in your own direct experience as you take each mindful step. The entire path is guided by a core principle, a discovery that was central to the Buddha's own awakening, the principle of the middle way. Before he found this path, he had lived as a prince, indulging in every kind of sensual pleasure, and he found it did not lead to lasting happiness. He then went to the other extreme, practicing severe asceticism, starving his body and holding his breath until he nearly died. He found that this too, a path of self-punishment, did not lead to wisdom, but only to a weakened body and a cloudy mind. The great insight came to him as he sat, exhausted and emaciated, near a river. He overheard a musician on a boat teaching his student about tuning a lute. "If the string is too tight," the teacher said, "it will snap. If it is too loose, it will not make a sound." In that simple instruction, a profound truth dawned. The string must be tuned just right, not too taut, not too slack. So too, the path to awakening is a middle way, one that avoids the extremes of mindless indulgence and painful self-mortification. It is a path of balance, of intelligence, of gentle and sustained effort. This gentle, balanced approach is the spirit that infuses all 8 factors of the path we are about to explore. The 8 factors of this path are traditionally grouped into 3 essential pillars, 3 areas of training that, together, create a complete system for transformation. These are the pillars of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The first pillar is panya, or wisdom. This is the compass and the map for our journey. It is about seeing clearly and having the right orientation. It consists of 2 factors. The first is right understanding, or sometimes called right view. This is the starting point and the culmination of the path. It means understanding the nature of reality as it is, which begins with a clear grasp of these very 4 noble truths: understanding our dukkha, its cause in tanha, the possibility of its cessation, and this 8-fold path as the way to that cessation. The second factor of wisdom is right thought, also known as right intention. Once we see the map, we must align our motivation with the destination. This means consciously cultivating thoughts and intentions that are free from craving and ill will. It means fostering intentions of letting go, intentions of loving kindness, and intentions of harmlessness toward ourselves and all other beings. Wisdom is the steering wheel of our lives. It ensures we are headed in the right direction. The second pillar is sila, or ethical conduct. If wisdom is our inner compass, then ethical conduct is how we walk through the world without stumbling or creating more distress for ourselves and others. It is about purifying our speech and our actions so that they become a support for our inner peace, rather than a source of agitation. This pillar has 3 factors. The first is right speech. This means abstaining from lying, from divisive speech that sets people against each other, from harsh speech that hurts others, and from idle chatter that clutters the mind. It is the practice of speaking words that are truthful, kind, helpful, and timely. The second factor is right action. This means acting in ways that are physically harmless. It is the practice of abstaining from killing or causing harm to any living being, abstaining from stealing or taking what is not freely given, and abstaining from sexual misconduct. The third factor is right livelihood. This means earning a living in a way that is honorable and does not cause harm to others. It is about participating in the world through our work in a way that aligns with our deepest values of compassion and integrity. This pillar of Sila is the foundation upon which all deeper states of peace are built. A mind cannot find true stillness if it is agitated by the memory of harmful words or the guilt of unskillful actions. The third and final pillar is Samadhi, or mental discipline. This is the heart of the meditative training. It is the inner gymnasium where we develop the strength, stability, and clarity of mind needed to walk the path. This pillar also consists of 3 factors. The first is right effort. This is the intelligent and balanced application of our energy. It is the gentle effort to prevent unwholesome states of mind from arising, to let go of them if they do arise, to cultivate wholesome states of mind, and to maintain them once they are present. The second factor, a cornerstone of the entire path, is right mindfulness. This is the capacity to be present with our experience in a clear and non-judgmental way. It is the practice of paying attention to our body, our feelings, our thoughts, and the world around us, moment by moment. It is the master tool for understanding ourselves and for developing insight. The final factor is right concentration. As mindfulness is developed, the mind becomes less scattered. Right concentration is the ability to unify the mind, to bring it to a state of calm, focused stillness on a single object. It is this concentrated mind that has the power to see into the deepest nature of reality and uproot the deepest causes of suffering. These 3 pillars, wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline, work together in a beautiful synergy. They are not separate compartments, but a living, breathing system. Your growing wisdom informs your ethical conduct. Living an ethical life, free from remorse and guilt, naturally leads to a calmer mind, which is the perfect ground for mental discipline. And the practice of mental discipline, especially mindfulness and concentration, sharpens the mind so that it can see things more clearly, which in turn deepens your wisdom. It is a magnificent, upward spiral where every skillful action, every kind word, and every moment of mindful presence contributes to the strengthening of the whole. This path is the medicine. It is the detailed, compassionate, and time-tested guide to healing the human heart. In our journey together through the quiet hours of the night, we will now begin to walk this path, not in theory, but in practice. We will take up each of these 8 golden strands, one by one, exploring their depth and learning how to weave them into the very fabric of our being, transforming the tangled threads of our anxiety into a beautiful tapestry of enduring peace. We begin our walk along this ancient path by stepping onto its very foundation, the pillar of wisdom. For without wisdom, any action we take, any effort we make, is like wandering in the dark. We might stumble in the right direction by chance, but we are just as likely to walk into walls or fall into pits. Wisdom is the act of turning on the light. It is the compass that shows us true north and the map that reveals the terrain. This foundational pillar of wisdom consists of 2 intertwined parts. The first is right understanding, and the second is right thought. Together, they form the bedrock of our entire journey, for they teach us that the most profound transformation begins not with what we do, but with how we see. Right understanding, or samma dittehi, is the starting point of the path. The word dittehi means view or perspective, so right understanding is not about blindly believing in a set of doctrines. It is about adopting a correct view, a perspective that aligns with reality as it is, rather than how we wish it to be or fear it might be. It is the difference between having a map of a forest and actually seeing the forest with your own eyes, the trees, the streams, the clearings, and the dangers. To have the map is useful, but to see the territory directly is wisdom. At its most fundamental level, right understanding is the deep, experiential penetration of the Four Noble Truths that we have already explored. It is one thing to hear about dukkha, the pervasive unsatisfactoriness of life. It is another thing entirely to see it operating in your own mind, to feel the subtle friction of a mind that is wanting something to be different. It is one thing to be told that the cause of this is tanha, or craving. It is another to catch yourself in the very act of grasping for pleasure or pushing away pain, and to see, in that moment, here it is, this is the cause. Right understanding means seeing this entire dynamic suffering, its cause, its possible end, and the path to that end not as a theory, to be memorized, but as a living process, unfolding within your own body and mind in every single moment. This clear seeing goes even deeper, revealing three fundamental characteristics of all existence, what are sometimes called the three marks of being. The first is anicca, or impermanence. Right understanding is seeing, not just intellectually but in your bones, that everything is in a state of flux. Your thoughts, your emotions, your body, the people in your life, the world itself, it is all a ceaseless flow of arising and passing away. Nothing is static, nothing can be held onto forever. The second mark is the dukkha we have already met, the unsatisfactoriness that arises from trying to find lasting happiness and security in things that are, by their very nature, impermanent. It is the stress and friction that comes from resisting the flow of life. And the third mark is anatta, or not self. This is the profound insight that within this ever-changing flow of experience, there is no fixed, solid, independent I or me at the center of it all. The self we cherish and defend is itself a process, a temporary gathering of physical and mental energies. To see this is not to be annihilated, but to be liberated from the exhausting, lifelong project of defending a phantom. This clear view that existence is marked by impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not selfish, not a pessimistic or nihilistic philosophy. It is a profoundly pragmatic and liberating realism. It is the truth that sets us free from chasing fantasies and allows us to find peace within reality itself. There is a beautiful story that illustrates the power of our view. Two people are walking at night, and they both come across a puddle of water on the path. The first person looks down and sees only the mud, the dirt, the murkiness. They feel disgust and annoyance, and they carefully step around it, their minds soured by the experience. The second person looks down at the very same puddle, but in its still surface, they see a perfect reflection of the full moon, shining brightly in the night sky. They feel a sense of wonder and beauty, and they walk on, their heart lifted by the experience. The puddle was the same, the reality was the same, but the perspective, the view, created two entirely different worlds. Right understanding is learning how to see the moon in the puddle. It is learning to see the hidden truths and the profound beauty that is present even in the difficult and murky parts of our lives. From this clear seeing, the second aspect of wisdom flows naturally. This is right thought, or samma sankappa. Sankappa can be translated as intention, resolve, or purpose. If right understanding is the map, right thought is the act of setting our inner compass based on what the map shows us. It is the rudder of the mind. Once we understand that craving, ill will, and cruelty are the things that muddy the puddle and hide the moon, we can then make a conscious choice to steer our minds in a different direction. Right thought is the practice of noticing the currents of our thinking and gently, patiently, guiding them towards wholesome destinations. The Buddha spoke of 3 specific kinds of right thought that we are to cultivate, and 3 kinds of wrong thought that we are to recognize and abandon. The first wholesome thought is the intention of renunciation, or letting go. This is the direct antidote to the thirst of craving. It is not about harsh self-denial or forcing yourself to live a barren life. Renunciation, in its truest sense, is a beautiful and joyful act of unburdening. It is the intention to find happiness, not in adding more things, but in needing less. It is the relief of putting down the heavy shopping bags of desire and attachment that we carry around all day. It is the simple, quiet resolve to release our grip on things, people, and ideas, allowing life to flow without our constant interference. The second wholesome thought is the intention of loving kindness, or goodwill. This is the direct antidote to anger, resentment, and ill will. It is the simple, powerful intention that wishes well for all beings, without exception. It begins with ourselves, learning to hold our own struggles with a gentle, friendly awareness. And it radiates outwards, to our loved ones, to neutral people, and even to those we find difficult. It is the quiet whisper of the heart that says, "May you be well, may you be happy, may you be at peace." The third wholesome thought is the intention of harmlessness, or compassion. This is the antidote to cruelty and violence, in thought, word, and deed. It is the active side of loving kindness. It is the intention that recognizes that all beings, just like us, wish to be free from suffering. It is the resolve to move through the world with as much gentleness as possible, to cause no intentional harm, and to respond to the suffering we see with a heart that wishes for it to be healed. Our thoughts are the seeds from which our entire world grows. An unexamined thought of anger, if watered with attention, can grow into a bitter tree that bears the fruit of conflict and misery. A fleeting thought of greed, if indulged, can grow into a tangled thicket of anxiety and dissatisfaction. Right thought is the art of mindful gardening. It is learning to recognize the weeds of craving and ill will and gently removing them before they take root. And it is the conscious act of planting and nurturing the beautiful seeds of letting go, of loving kindness, and of compassion. Right understanding and right thought are the two wings of the bird of wisdom. They are inseparable and mutually supportive. Our understanding shows us why we must change our thinking. It shows us, with piercing clarity, that clinging leads to pain, and that anger is a poison we drink ourselves. This understanding gives us the motivation to practice right thought. In turn, as we actively cultivate wholesome intentions, our minds become clearer and calmer. This clarity allows us to see things even more deeply, which further strengthens our right understanding. This is the beginning of the upward spiral. It all starts here, in the quiet, unseen world of your own perspective and your own intentions. Your experience of life is not written in stone. It is painted, moment by moment, with the brush of your own mind. As you rest now, you don't need to force anything. Simply allow this wisdom to settle. Become aware of the stories you tell yourself. Notice the flavor of your intentions. And perhaps, just before you drift into sleep, you can gently set a single, simple intention in your heart. An intention for peace, an intention for kindness. Plant that seed and let the quiet darkness be the fertile soil in which it can begin to grow. As wisdom dawns within us, as our understanding deepens and our intentions clarify, its light inevitably seeks an outlet. It does not remain a private, internal secret. The very first place that our inner world of thought and intention touches the outer world is through our speech. Our words are the bridge between our mind and the mind of another. They are the tools we use to build connection, to share knowledge, to express love. But like any powerful tool, they can also be used to build walls, to spread confusion, and to inflict deep wounds. The second pillar of the Eightfold Path, that of ethical conduct, begins here, with the practice of samma-vaca, or right speech. This is not a lesson in grammar or public speaking. It is the profound art of bringing mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom to every word we utter, transforming our communication from a source of potential conflict into a powerful vehicle for peace, both for others and, most especially, for ourselves. Our words have a creative power that we often underestimate. They are not just empty sounds, they are vibrations of energy that shape our reality. A word of encouragement can give someone the strength to persevere through a difficult day. A word of sincere apology can heal a rift that has lasted for years. A word of truth can illuminate a dark and confusing situation. Conversely, a careless word of gossip can destroy a reputation. A harsh word spoken in anger can leave a scar on a heart that never fully fades. A lie can create a web of complexity and anxiety that traps both the speaker and the listener. The practice of right speech is the conscious choice to become a creator of peace and clarity, rather than a creator of chaos and suffering. It is founded on a deep understanding of 4 specific principles, 4 gates that a wise person allows their speech to pass through before it is released into the world. The first gate is truthfulness. The practice of right speech begins with a commitment to abstain from lying, from speaking that which is not true. This seems simple enough, but its roots go deep. It is not just about avoiding blatant, malicious falsehoods. It extends to the subtle economies of truth we engage in every day. The exaggerations we use to make a story more interesting, the convenient omissions that paint us in a better light, the promises we make with no real intention of keeping, the white lies we tell to avoid a moment of discomfort. While these may seem harmless, each one introduces a small note of discord into our own minds. To maintain a lie, even a small one, requires energy. We must remember the story, keep our facts straight, and manage the low-grade fear of being found out. It creates an inner complexity, a split between our inner reality and the face we present to the world. To practice truthfulness is to embrace simplicity. It is to trust that reality, just as it is enough. A mind that is committed to truth is a mind that is at rest. It has nothing to hide, nothing to defend. It is clear, straightforward, and calm. This commitment to truth becomes a bedrock of personal integrity, a foundation of self-trust upon which all other aspects of the path can be built. The second gate is that of harmonious speech. This is the practice of abstaining from slander, gossip, and divisive talk words that set one person against another. It is the refusal to carry tales, to speak ill of someone who is not present, or to use our words to create factions and discord. This is one of the most insidious ways that we create suffering in the world. A bit of gossip shared over coffee, a whispered criticism in the workplace. These things can feel bonding in the moment, creating a false sense of intimacy built on shared negativity. But they are poison. They poison the atmosphere of a family, a community, or an office, creating suspicion and mistrust. And they poison our own minds. When we engage in divisive speech, we are steeping our own consciousness in the energies of judgment and ill will. The practice of right speech invites us instead to become agents of harmony. It means speaking in ways that bring people together, that encourage understanding, that heal misunderstandings. And if we hear of a conflict, our role is not to take sides or spread the story, but to see if we can be a force for reconciliation. And if we cannot speak a word that brings people closer, the practice then becomes one of noble silence. We do not have to add our voice to every conflict. The third gate is that of gentle speech. This is the practice of abstaining from harsh, abusive, or angry words. It is the refusal to use our speech as a weapon. This includes obvious things like yelling, cursing, and name-calling, but it also includes the more subtle violence of sarcasm, intended to wound, belittling comments, and a condescending tone. We have all felt the sting of a harsh word. It lands in the heart like a stone, and the ripples of that impact can last for a very long time. When we speak harshly, we are not only causing pain to another, we are violently agitating our own minds. To speak in anger is to flood our own system with the stress hormones of conflict. It leaves us feeling shaky, depleted, and filled with regret. The practice of gentle speech is a radical act of non-violence. It is the cultivation of a way of speaking that is kind, courteous, and pleasant, even when we must communicate something difficult. It is possible to disagree without being disagreeable. It is possible to express a boundary without creating a battle. It is learning to speak from the calmest, wisest part of ourselves, rather than from the reactive, wounded part. The fourth and final gate is that of meaningful speech. This is the practice of abstaining from idle chatter, pointless gossip, and speech that is frivolous and serves no real purpose. In our world, so full of noise and constant communication, this may be the most challenging aspect of right speech. We often talk simply to fill the silence, to avoid the discomfort of being quiet with another person. We talk about the weather, We speculate about celebrities. We endlessly analyze sporting events. While seemingly harmless, this constant stream of purposeless talk acts like a leaky faucet for our mental energy. It keeps the surface of the mind in a state of constant agitation, making it very difficult to access the deeper states of calm and clarity we seek. The practice of meaningful speech is to become a good steward of our words and our attention. Before we speak, we can ask ourselves a simple set of questions. Is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? Is this the right time to say it? If the answer to any of these is no, then perhaps silence is the wiser, more compassionate choice. This practice makes our communication more intentional, more potent, and it preserves our mental energy for what truly matters. There is a powerful story that illustrates the immense gravity of our words. A man went about his village, spreading a malicious rumor about a wise old teacher. After some time, the man felt a deep sense of remorse and went to the teacher to ask for forgiveness and to find out how he could undo the damage he had done. The teacher listened patiently and then said, "There is one thing you can do. Go home, take a feather pillow, climb to the highest hill in the village, and on a windy day, cut the pillow open and release all the feathers." The man, though confused, was eager to make amends, so he did exactly as he was told. He watched as the wind caught the thousands of tiny feathers and scattered them in every direction, across fields, into forests, and over rooftops. He then returned to the teacher and said, "I have done as you asked. Am I now forgiven?" The wise teacher looked at him and said, "Almost. There is just one more task. Now, go and gather every single one of those feathers and bring them back to me." The man's face fell. "But that's impossible," he cried. "The wind has carried them everywhere. I can never get them all back." The teacher nodded gently. "So it is," he said, "with your words. As you rest tonight, let this wisdom settle into your heart. Your words are like those feathers, carried on the winds of time, and you can never fully know where they will land or what effect they will have. To practice right speech is to hold the pillow with care. It is an act of profound kindness to the world, and an even more profound act of kindness to yourself. For a mind that does not have to worry about the feathers it has scattered is a mind that is free to be calm. It is a mind that is becoming a safe and peaceful place to live. From the inner world of our intentions and the bridge of our speech, we now arrive at the most solid, tangible expression of our character, our actions. While thoughts may be fleeting and words can be misspoken, our physical deeds leave the clearest imprint on the world and upon our own hearts. They are the most powerful seeds we plant, creating the future karma that we will inevitably experience. The path to a calm mind is not just an internal affair. It requires that we create a life of external integrity, a life where our actions are in harmony with our deepest aspirations for peace. This is the domain of Sammakamanta, or right action, and its natural extension into our daily work, Samma Ajiva, or right livelihood. Together, they guide us in moving through the world with grace and harmlessness, ensuring that the life we live becomes the very foundation for the peace we seek. Right action is guided by one overarching principle, the principle of non-harming. It is the conscious and compassionate intention to cause no harm to oneself or to any other living being through one's bodily actions. This principle is traditionally broken down into three fundamental precepts, three areas of conduct to which we bring our mindful attention. The first is to abstain from the taking of life. At its most basic, this is a vow not to kill another human being, but its spirit extends much further. It is the cultivation of a deep reverence and respect for all life. It is the recognition that every being, from the largest mammal to the smallest insect, shares the same fundamental desire that we do, the desire to live and to avoid pain. To practice this is to walk upon the earth with a gentle step, to foster an attitude of loving protection rather than casual disregard for the lives around us. The second precept of right action is to abstain from taking that which is not freely given. This is the practice of refraining from stealing. Again, this extends far beyond the obvious act of robbing a bank or shoplifting. It encompasses all the subtle ways we might take what does not belong to us. This could mean taking credit for a colleague's work, using office supplies for personal projects without permission, not paying a debt that is owed, or taking advantage of someone's kindness or generosity. At its core, this practice is about cultivating a radical honesty and a deep sense of contentment. It is about respecting the property and efforts of others and finding joy in what we have, rather than constantly seeking to acquire more through unskillful means. It fosters a mind that is open and transparent, with no need for the secretiveness and fear that accompany dishonesty. The third precept is to abstain from sexual misconduct. This is about bringing mindfulness, respect, and kindness into our most intimate relationships. Misconduct, in this context, refers to any sexual act that causes harm to another or to oneself. This includes exploitation, coercion, and any action that betrays a trust or a commitment, causing emotional pain to a partner or others involved. It is a practice of honoring our own bodies and the bodies of others, of ensuring that our sexuality is an expression of genuine connection and affection, rather than a source of suffering driven by unmindful lust or a need for control. To practice this is to create relationships built on a foundation of trust, honesty, and mutual respect, which is essential for a peaceful heart. It is important to see that these three precepts are not just about avoiding negative actions. They have a positive and beautiful flip side. To abstain from killing is also to actively practice protecting and nurturing life. To abstain from stealing is also to actively practice generosity, to give freely of our time, our energy, and our resources when we can. To abstain from sexual misconduct is also to actively practice fidelity, trustworthiness, and deep, committed love. The connection between these ethical actions and our inner peace is direct and profound. There is an old saying, "A clear conscience is the softest pillow." When we act in ways that are harmful, when we lie, steal, or betray, we plant a thorny seed in our own mind. Even if no one else ever finds out, we know. The memory of the action lingers, creating guilt, fear, and remorse. These states are forms of mental agitation. They are like static in the background of our consciousness, making it impossible for the mind to settle into true stillness. A mind that is afraid of being discovered, or that is replaying its transgressions over and over, cannot meditate. It cannot find peace. But when we live a life of integrity, when we know that our actions are rooted in kindness and honesty, our conscience is clear. We build a powerful sense of self-respect. We create an inner environment of safety and trust. This is the clean, stable, and fertile ground upon which a contemplative practice can truly flourish. This principle of right action naturally extends into the area where we spend a vast portion of our waking lives, our work. This is the practice of right livelihood. It asks a simple, profound question. Is the way that I earn a living causing harm in the world? Is my work aligned with my values, or does it contradict them? The classical texts list 5 types of livelihood that are to be avoided because they are rooted in causing direct harm: dealing in weapons, dealing in living beings, which includes slavery and human trafficking, dealing in the production of meat, dealing in intoxicants like alcohol and drugs, and dealing in poisons. For most of us listening, our professions may not fall into such stark categories, but the principle can be applied with subtlety to our modern world. We can ask ourselves, does my work require me to be dishonest? Does it profit from exploiting the ignorance or addiction of others? Does it contribute to the destruction of our planet? Does it promote a culture of division, greed, or mindless consumerism? This inquiry is not meant to cause anxiety or to encourage everyone to immediately quit their jobs. It is an invitation to bring mindfulness and ethical reflection into our professional lives. It may mean making small changes within our current relato, be more honest with clients, to create a more supportive atmosphere for colleagues, to advocate for more sustainable practices. For some, it may eventually lead to a change in career, a move toward work that feels more meaningful and aligned with the heart. The goal of right livelihood is to ensure that our work becomes an extension of our spiritual practice, not a weekly obstacle to it. It is to live a single, integrated life, where the person we are at work and the person who seeks peace in the quiet of the evening are one and the same. Perhaps no story illustrates the transformative power of a change in action more than that of the great Indian emperor, Ashoka, who lived about 300 years before Christ. In his youth, Ashoka was a ruthless and ambitious conqueror, known as Ashoka the Fierce. He waged bloody wars to expand his empire. His final campaign was against the kingdom of Kalinga. The battle was horrific, and Ashoka was victorious, but the cost was staggering. The historical records, carved in stone by Ashoka himself, say that hundreds of thousands of people were slain, and even more were captured and deported. Standing in the midst of this carnage, looking out over the fields of the dead, and hearing the cries of the widowed and orphaned, Ashoka was overcome by a profound and shattering remorse. In that moment, he saw the true fruit of his actions. He saw the immensity of the suffering he had caused, and in that moment of seeing, he was transformed. He renounced violence forever and embraced the path of Dharma, the path of righteousness. His actions changed completely. The man who had waged war now waged peace. He built hospitals for people and animals. He dug wells and planted trees along the roads for travelers. He renounced conquest and instead sent emissaries of peace and wisdom to other lands. He carved edicts on rock pillars across his empire, not boasting of his victories, but urging his people to practice tolerance, non-violence, and compassion. Ashoka's inner world was revolutionized because his outer actions were revolutionized. His story is a timeless testament to the fact that it is never too late to change, and that our actions have the power to transform not only our own hearts, but the entire world around us. As you settle into rest, allow this understanding to permeate your being. Your life is shaped by your deeds. A life of integrity is the foundation for a mind at peace. Reflect gently on the actions of your day, and set a quiet intention for tomorrow, to move through your day with a little more kindness, a little more honesty, a little more harmlessness. Know that every small act of integrity is a step toward the inner calm you seek. It is the building of a house of peace, brick by skillful brick. Having charted our course with the map of wisdom and built a solid vessel through the practice of ethical conduct, we now arrive at the engine room of our journey. This is the third and final pillar of the path, known as samadhi, or mental discipline. This is where the practice moves from the conceptual and the relational to the deeply experiential. It is the active, moment-to-moment training of the heart and mind. If wisdom is knowing what to do, and ethics is clearing the ground for the work, then mental discipline is the work itself. It is the inner craft, the gentle art of transforming the wild, scattered, and often turbulent mind into an instrument of profound peace, clarity, and power. This pillar consists of three essential, interwoven practices: right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Together, they form the core of meditative development. We begin with right effort, or sama vayama. The word effort might conjure images of struggle, of gritting your teeth and forcing your way through. But the right effort is crucial. This is not a tense, aggressive striving. It is a skillful, intelligent, and balanced application of energy. It is the wise and gentle persistence of the sun that melts the ice, not the violent hammering that shatters it. Right effort is a form of mindful gardening for the mind, and it involves a beautiful and practical four-part strategy. The first aspect is the effort to prevent unwholesome states from arising. This is an act of wise vigilance. It's like being a gatekeeper for your mind. You learn to recognize the kinds of sense input, conversations, or entertainment that tend to trigger states like anger, greed, or despair. The effort, then, is to gently guard the gates of your senses, not exposing yourself unnecessarily to things that you know will disturb your peace. It is the wisdom of not walking into a swamp if you wish to keep your feet clean. The second aspect is the effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen. Despite our best efforts, the gatekeeper will sometimes fall asleep. A thought of anger, a wave of jealousy, or a cloud of anxiety will inevitably enter the mind. When this happens, the effort is not to suppress it, hate it, or enter into a battle with it. That would be like trying to fight a shadow. It only makes it seem more solid. The right effort here is to gently recognize the unwholesome state, acknowledge its presence without judgment, and then skillfully let it go. You can do this by relaxing the body, turning your attention to the breath, or deliberately replacing the negative thought with a positive one, just as you would change a radio station that is playing static. The third aspect is the effort to cultivate wholesome states that have not yet arisen. This is the proactive side of the practice. It is not enough to simply avoid the negative. We must actively plant the seeds of the positive. This is the deliberate cultivation of kindness, compassion, generosity, patience, and gratitude. It means taking moments in your day to consciously bring these qualities to mind, to reflect on them, and to feel them in your heart. Even if you don't feel them spontaneously, you are creating the causes and conditions for these beautiful states to flourish. Finally, the fourth aspect is the effort to maintain and perfect the wholesome states that are already present. When a moment of genuine kindness, a feeling of peace, or a sense of gratitude arises, our tendency is to quickly move on to the next thing. The effort here is to cherish that moment. It is to savor the wholesome state, to allow it to linger, to water it with your attention so that it grows stronger and its roots sink deeper into the soil of your consciousness. This fourfold effort is the engine of our practice, providing the gentle, consistent energy needed to steer the mind toward liberation. But how do we know what is a weed and what is a flower? How can we abandon a negative state if we are not even aware of its presence? This requires the crown jewel of the meditative path, the second factor of mental discipline, right mindfulness, or samasati. If right effort is the work of the gardener, right mindfulness is the gardener's clear-eyed awareness. It is the simple, yet revolutionary, capacity to pay attention to your experience in the present moment, on purpose and without judgment. Our normal state of mind is one of right heedlessness. We are lost in thought, planning the future, ruminating on the past, caught in fantasies and anxieties. We are on autopilot. Right mindfulness is the act of waking up from this dream. It is the practice of bringing your full, bare attention to whatever is happening right now. This could be the physical sensation of your breath moving in and out of your body. It could be the feeling of your feet on the floor. It could be the sound of a passing car. It could be the arising of a feeling like joy or sadness, or the appearance of a thought. The crucial quality of mindfulness is that it is non-judgmental. It acts like a clear, clean mirror. A mirror does not condemn what it reflects. It doesn't cling to a beautiful face or push away a sorrowful one. It simply reflects, clearly and accurately, whatever is in front of it. In the same way, mindfulness simply registers, there is a feeling of tightness in the chest. There is a thought of worry. There is the sound of birdsong. This simple act of impartial observation creates a space between you and your experience. Instead of being consumed by your anger, you become the calm observer of the anger. You see that it is just a temporary energy, a cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. In this space lies all our freedom. Mindfulness is the tool that allows us to see the weeds of unwholesome states clearly, so that right effort can gently remove them. It is the light that illuminates the garden. As the gardener applies diligent effort, informed by clear awareness, a natural result occurs. The garden becomes less cluttered. The work becomes more focused. This leads to the third factor of mental discipline, right concentration, or sama samadhi. This is the fruit of the practice. As we apply right effort to continually and gently bring our right mindfulness back to a single object most commonly, the breath, the mind, which was once scattered and fragmented like the light from a bare bulb, begins to gather and unify. It becomes like a powerful, coherent laser beam. Right concentration is this ability of the mind to rest, steady and unwavering, on one point, without distraction. When the mind is concentrated, it is profoundly peaceful. The inner chatter subsides. The restlessness vanishes. It is a state of deep calm, stability, and even joy. This concentrated mind is not a dull or trance-like state. It is exceptionally alert, bright, and powerful. It is this powerful, unified, and stable mind honed by concentration, guided by effort, and illuminated by mindfulness that has the capacity to see things with extraordinary clarity. It can penetrate the deepest layers of reality, seeing the truth of impermanence, and not self, not as a concept, but as a living, vibrant reality. This is the insight that cuts the root of suffering once and for all. These three factors, effort, mindfulness, and concentration, form a beautiful, synergistic loop. Right effort provides the energy to stay mindful. Right mindfulness provides the clarity to know where to direct the effort. Together, they build right concentration. A concentrated mind then becomes a more powerful platform for even deeper mindfulness, which in turn fuels a more refined wisdom. The entire path becomes a self-reinforcing, upward spiral toward greater peace and clarity. This is the heart of the training. It is the patient, compassionate work of tending to the garden of your own mind. As you lie here now, on the edge of sleep, you can take the first simple step of this practice. Feel the gentle movement of your breath. You don't need to change it or control it. Simply feel the sensation of the air entering your body and the sensation of it leaving. This is mindfulness. If your mind wanders, as it will, the gentle act of noticing that it has wandered and guiding it back to the breath, without any scolding, is right effort. Let this simple, quiet attention be your anchor, a gentle rhythm to carry you into a deep and peaceful rest, knowing that even in this simple act, you are tending to your own precious garden. Having illuminated the path of mental discipline, we now focus our light on its most vital and accessible element, the practice that unlocks the door to all the others, right mindfulness. While we have introduced it as the clear-eyed gardener, a component of our training, it is also a universe of practice in itself. It is the very heart of meditation. The power of mindfulness lies in its profound simplicity, for it asks us to do only one thing, but it is the one thing we so rarely do: to arrive fully in the only moment we ever truly have, the present moment. The source of so much of our inner storm, the anxiety, regret, and restlessness that plague us, stems from a simple fact. We are almost never where we are. Our bodies are here, but our minds are lost somewhere else entirely, time traveling through imaginary worlds of past and future. Our mind, in its untrained state, is often compared to a monkey mind. Imagine a restless monkey in a vast jungle, never staying still for more than a second. It swings from one branch, which is a memory of something you said yesterday, to another branch, which is a worry about a meeting next week. From there, it leaps to a branch of fantasy about a future vacation, then drops to a branch of resentment about an old argument from years ago. It chatters endlessly, pulling our attention along with it on a frantic, exhausting journey. We spend our days and nights being dragged through this inner jungle by the monkey mind. The past becomes a landscape of ghosts that haunt us. We are tormented by the ghosts of regret, replaying our mistakes, and the ghosts of resentment, nursing old wounds. The future becomes a land of phantoms that frighten us. We are stalked by the phantoms of anxiety, imagining all the things that could go wrong, and the phantoms of desperate hope, which bring with them the fear of disappointment. We exhaust ourselves fighting ghosts and running from phantoms, all the while missing the one place that is real, the one place that is safe, the here and now. The practice of mindfulness is the gentle art of training this monkey, not by caging it or punishing it, but by giving it a calm and steady place to rest. That place of rest, our most faithful and reliable anchor to the present moment, is our own breath. The breath is a miracle we constantly overlook. Think about it. It is always with you, from the moment of your birth to the moment of your death. You do not need to buy it or seek it. It is always happening in the now. You cannot breathe in the past, nor can you breathe in the future. Each breath is a fresh, new event occurring in this very moment. It is the perfect bridge between our conscious and unconscious worlds, an automatic process that we can also consciously feel and guide. As you lie here now, you can begin this practice. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to force. Simply bring your gentle attention to the physical sensation of your breathing. You might feel the cool air entering your nostrils and the warm air leaving. You might notice the gentle rise of your abdomen on the in-breath and its soft fall on the out-breath. Just rest your awareness there, as if you were a feather floating on the current of your own breath. When the monkey mind inevitably wanders off to a thought or a worry, the practice is simply to notice, gently and without any criticism, the mind has wandered. And then, like a kind friend, you gently guide it back home to the sensation of the breath. Each return is a small victory of presence, a moment of waking up. From the anchor of the breath, we can expand our awareness to include the wider landscape of the body. Like the breath, your body exists only in the present moment. Your thoughts can be in 1,000 different places, but your body is always, undeniably, right here. You can connect with this reality right now by simply feel the points of contact between your body and the surface beneath you. Feel the weight and warmth of the blanket resting upon you. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. Perhaps you can feel a gentle pulsation of energy in your hands, or the simple feeling of aliveness throughout your body. This practice of inhabiting your body is profoundly grounding. Anxiety is an inherently disembodied state. It pulls all our energy up into our heads, into the world of abstract thought and worry. By bringing our awareness down into the tangible, solid reality of our physical sensations, we pull our energy out of the storm of thought and back into the calm harbor of the body. We are returning home to ourselves. The true magic of mindfulness, however, is revealed when we learn to carry this presence off the meditation cushion and out of our beds, weaving it into the fabric of our ordinary lives. We do not need to set aside an extra hour to meditate. We can transform any activity into a meditation. When you wash a dish, you can truly wash the dish. Instead of your mind being a million miles away, you can bring your attention to the sensations of the moment, the feeling of the warm water on your hands, the slippery texture of the soap, the sound of the plate against the porcelain of the sink. In that moment, the universe is fully contained in the act of washing that one dish. When you drink a cup of tea or coffee, you can truly taste it. Instead of drinking it absently while scrolling on your phone, you can feel the warmth of the mug, see the steam rising, smell the rich aroma, and feel the liquid in your mouth. Each sip becomes an act of presence. When you walk, you can turn it into a walking meditation. Feel the soles of your feet connecting with and leaving the ground. Feel the air on your face. See the colors around you. Every step can be a homecoming to the present moment. There is a classic story of a Zen master who was approached by a student. The student asked him, "Master, what is the secret to your long and peaceful life?" The master replied, "It is very simple. When I am hungry, I eat. When I am tired, I sleep." The student, looking confused, said, "But isn't that what everyone does?" The master smiled gently. "No," he said. "When most people eat, they are not really eating. They are thinking of 100 different things, worrying about their work, planning their evening. When most people try to sleep, they are not really sleeping. They are dreaming 1,000 dreams, caught in the struggles of their day. But when I eat, I just eat. When I sleep, I just sleep. This is the secret. It is to give yourself, completely and utterly, to the moment you are in. This is not just a nice idea. It is the most practical truth there is. The past is gone. It exists only as a memory, a pattern of neurons firing in your brain right now. You cannot change it. You cannot relive it. You can only learn from its memory in the present. The future has not yet arrived. It exists only as a thought, a projection of your mind right now. You cannot control it. You cannot live in it. You can only prepare for it with wise actions in the present. The only time you are ever alive is now. The present moment is the only field of action, the only point of power you will ever have. It is the only place you can experience joy, feel love, make a new choice, or find peace. To live constantly in the past or the future is to be a ghost in your own life, to miss the entire show. As you lie here, relaxing into the quiet of the night, let go of the phantoms and the ghosts. Let the past be. Let the future be. Come home to what is real. Come home to the simple, undeniable reality of this breath, this body, this moment. There is no need to seek peace somewhere else. It is right here, in the very heart of this moment, waiting patiently for you to arrive. As we learn to rest in the present moment, as we anchor our awareness in the quiet harbor of the now, we begin to notice something extraordinary about the nature of this harbor. It is not a static, frozen dock. It is a living, flowing river. By being present, we do not stop the world. We simply begin to see, for the first time, how it truly moves. This direct seeing reveals the first great, universal truth about all of existence. a characteristic so profound and all-pervasive that it is known as one of the three marks of all phenomena. This truth is anicca, or impermanence. It is the simple but earth-shattering recognition that everything, without exception, is in a constant state of flux. Nothing is permanent. Everything that arises will, inevitably, pass away. To understand this is to understand the fundamental rhythm of life itself. Look anywhere, and you will see this law at play. On a grand scale, we see mountains that seem eternal slowly being worn down by wind and rain. We see stars being born in fiery nurseries and dying in silent explosions across billions of years. Civilizations rise, flourish, and crumble into dust, leaving only faint echoes for archaeologists to find. On a human scale, we see it in our own bodies. The body you have now is not the body you had 7 years ago. Nearly every cell has been replaced. You are not a static entity, but a constant process of regeneration and decay. And most intimately, we see this truth in the very landscape of our own minds. A thought appears as if from nowhere, lingers for a moment, and vanishes. An emotional wave of joy, a pang of sadness, a flash of anger swells up, crests, and then recedes back into the ocean of the mind. Our moods, our opinions, our energy levels, our relationships, our possessions, our entire world is a ceaseless, shimmering dance of arising and ceasing. Life is not a series of snapshots. It is a flowing, continuous motion picture. Now, at first glance, this truth can seem terrifying. It can feel like a declaration that nothing is safe, nothing is reliable, and everything we love will be taken from us. This fear is the source of immense suffering. Impermanence itself is not suffering. It is simply the way things are. The suffering, the dukkha, arises from our resistance to this truth. It comes from our tanha, our craving for permanence in a world that can never offer it. We experience a moment of perfect happiness, and we immediately try to cling to it, to build a fortress around it, but it slips through our fingers like water. We love someone, and we want them to stay exactly as they are, for our relationship to never change. But people grow and evolve, and circumstances shift. We achieve a certain status, or acquire a prized possession, and we live with the low-grade anxiety of losing it. Our struggle against the universal law of change is like trying to swim against a powerful current. It is exhausting, futile, and it inevitably leads to us feeling battered and defeated. We try to build a solid, permanent house for our happiness on the banks of a constantly moving river, and we are in a state of perpetual anxiety about the coming flood. But if we can be brave enough to look deeper, to turn this truth over in our hands, we discover that impermanence is not a curse, but a profound and liberating blessing. It is the other side of the coin that brings us our greatest solace. For if it is true that all pleasant things must pass, it is also equally true that all painful things must pass. This is the great promise of hope that is embedded in the heart of reality. The darkest mood you have ever experienced did not last forever. The most intense physical pain eventually subsided. The most heartbreaking grief, while it may leave a scar, evolves and softens with time. The most difficult period of your life is not a permanent destination. It is a season, and all seasons change. Understanding this gives us incredible resilience. When we are in the midst of pain, we can whisper to ourselves, "This too shall pass." This is not a form of denial, but a wise recognition of reality. It allows us to endure hardship with courage, knowing that the storm will not rage forever, that the clouds will eventually part. Furthermore, impermanence is the very basis of all growth and transformation. If things were permanent, then nothing could ever change. A mistake would be a permanent stain. A bad habit would be a life sentence. We would be trapped, forever, in the person we are today. But because of impermanence, change is always possible. You are not the same person you were a year ago, or even yesterday. You can learn, you can heal, you can let go, you can become a kinder, wiser person. The possibility of awakening itself is entirely dependent on the law of impermanence. It is the promise that the weeds in our garden are not eternal, and that the flowers we plant can grow. The most poignant and powerful story of this teaching is that of a woman named Kisa Gotami. Her young son had died, and in her overwhelming grief, she could not accept it. She clutched the small, lifeless body to her chest and went from house to house in her village, desperately begging for a medicine that could bring him back. Some people mocked her, others pitied her, but no one could help. Finally, a wise man, seeing her madness, was born of a deep love, told her to go see the Buddha. She went and laid her son at the Buddha's feet, pleading for a cure. The Buddha looked at her with immense compassion and said, "There is only one medicine that can help you. Go back into the village and bring me a single mustard seed from a house where no one has ever known death, a house that has never lost a child, a spouse, a parent, or a friend." Filled with a frantic hope, Kisagotami rushed back to the village. At the first house, she asked for a mustard seed. "Of course," the woman said, "but in this house, my husband died last year." At the second house, the family was happy to give her a seed, but they said, "We are still grieving the loss of our eldest son." She went from house to every home in the village, and the story was the same. Everyone was willing to help, but in every single family, there was a story of loss. The living were few, they told her, but the dead were many. As the day wore on and the sun began to set, the profound truth of the Buddha's lesson dawned on her. Her sorrow was not unique. This pain of loss was not a punishment visited only upon her. It was the shared, universal experience of all human beings. Death is not an interruption of life. It is a fundamental part of its fabric. With this deep, sorrowful, and yet strangely comforting understanding, her frantic clinging began to soften. She took her son's body to the charnel ground, and as she looked at the flickering funeral pyres, she understood. The law of impermanence governs all things. In that acceptance, her healing began. When we truly, deeply understand anicca, it does not make us morbid or nihilistic. It does the opposite. It makes our life infinitely more precious. When you know that your time with a loved one is finite, you treat that time with more care, you listen more deeply, you forgive more easily. When you realize that this moment of simple joy, the taste of your food, the beauty of a sunset, the warmth of the sun on your skin will never come again in exactly the same way, you savor it more fully. You stop sleepwalking through your days, taking them for granted. The knowledge of impermanence is a call to wake up, to be fully present for the bittersweet, beautiful, and fleeting miracle of your own life. So as you lie here, feel yourself as part of this universal flow. Let go of the day that has passed. It is a memory. Do not grasp at the day to come. It is a fantasy. Rest here, in the river of this moment. Feel the impermanent rhythm of your own breath, a gentle wave of life, arising and passing, arising and passing. Trust this flow. To fight it is to suffer. To relax into it, to learn to dance with its ever-changing rhythm, is to find a peace that is not dependent on things staying the same. It is the peace of letting go, the peace of flowing with the river of life itself. As we stand in the ever-flowing river of impermanence, watching our thoughts, feelings, and experiences arise and pass away, a profound and challenging question begins to surface. If everything is constantly changing, then who is the I that is experiencing all of this? What is this self that we feel so intimately, this sense of me that we spend our entire lives trying to protect, promote, and please? This question leads us to the second great mark of existence, a truth that is perhaps the most unique and liberating insight of this path. It is the wisdom of anatta, or not self. It is the discovery that the solid, separate, continuous self we believe ourselves to be does not exist in the way we think it does. This teaching is not a dark pronouncement of our non-existence, but the key that unlocks the prison door of the ego, freeing us into a lighter, more spacious, and more compassionate way of being. From the moment we learn to speak, we are taught to use the words I, me, and mine. I want this. This is my toy. I am happy. We build our entire world around this central reference point, this feeling of being a distinct, enduring self, who is the thinker of our thoughts, the feeler of our feelings, and the doer of our deeds. We believe there is a permanent CEO in the headquarters of our mind, a continuous entity that was there in our childhood photos and will be there on our deathbed. The wisdom of anatta invites us to become gentle investigators and to actually go looking for this self. Where is it? Can we find it? To aid in this investigation, the Buddha provided a brilliant analytical tool. He suggested that our entire personal experience can be broken down into 5 categories, or aggregates, known as the 5 skandhas. Let us look at them one by one to see if we can locate ourselves in any of them. The first is rupa, or form. This is our physical body, with all its organs, elements, and sensations. We certainly say, "This is my body," but is this body truly me? This body is constantly changing. It gets sick, it ages, it is dependent on food, water, and air. It is entirely subject to the law of impermanence. If it were truly us, we should be able to command it to never get old or sick, but we cannot. We know this body is a temporary vessel, so the self cannot be found in the body. The second aggregate is Vedana, or feeling. This refers to the raw sensations that arise whenever we have an experience. They are categorized as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. A feeling of joy arises, a feeling of pain arises, a feeling of boredom arises. But are we these feelings? Feelings are like the weather, they come and go. One moment there is sunshine, the next there is rain. No feeling lasts forever. If you were your feelings, which one would you be? The happiness of yesterday or the sadness of today? To identify with our feelings is to be endlessly tossed about on a sea of change. So the self cannot be found in our feelings. The third aggregate is sana, or perception. This is the faculty of the mind that recognizes, identifies, and labels. When light hits our eyes, the feeling is neutral, but perception says blue sky, tree, car. It is our mental filing system. But are we our perceptions? Our perceptions are conditioned by our culture, our language, our past experiences. They can be mistaken. To identify with our perceptions is to be a collection of fleeting labels. So the self cannot be found in our perceptions. The fourth aggregate is sankhara, or mental formations. This is a broad category that includes all our other mental activities, our habits, our biases, our opinions, our moods, our intentions, our beliefs, our desires, our fears. This is the stuff of our personality. This seems to be getting closer to what we think of as me. But are we our opinions? Our opinions change. Are we our moods? Our moods shift like the wind. Are we our habits? We can change our habits with effort. These mental formations are all conditioned, all impermanent. They are not a solid, unchanging core. So the self cannot be found in our mental formations. The fifth and final aggregate is vijnana, or consciousness. This is the raw faculty of knowing, the bare awareness that arises when a sense organ meets a sense object. There is eye consciousness, ear consciousness, mind consciousness. It is the light that illuminates the experience. But is this consciousness the self? The Buddha pointed out that consciousness itself is dependent. It does not exist on its own. It only arises in relationship to something else. Eye consciousness depends on an eye and a form. Mind consciousness depends on a mind and a thought. It too is part of the flow of arising and passing away. So even in the act of knowing, a permanent, independent self cannot be found. The ancient story that perfectly captures this insight is the dialogue between the sage Nagasena and the Greek king Melinda. The king arrived to question Nagasena and asked his name. Nagasena replied that he was known as Nagasena, but that Nagasena was just a designation, a name, and that there was no permanent person to be found there. The king was astounded. If there is no person, he challenged, then who is it that wears these robes, who eats, sleeps, and studies? He then pointed to the king's own chariot, standing nearby. Nagasena calmly asked, "Your Majesty, did you walk here, or did you arrive in a chariot?" "In a chariot," the king replied. "Then please, Your Majesty," Nagasena said, "tell me what a chariot is. Is it the wheels, the axle, the frame, the yoke, the reins?" The king had to answer no to each question. "Is it then all of those parts combined?" Nagasena asked. "No, venerable sir," the king admitted. "Is it something separate from all of those parts?" Again, the king had to say no. Nagasena then declared, "So, Your Majesty, you say you arrived in a chariot, but when we investigate, we cannot find a chariot. Chariot is simply a convenient name, a designation given to a particular collection of parts, assembled in a particular way. In exactly the same way, Nagasena is a convenient name given to this collection of 5 aggregates. But when we investigate, no separate, permanent person can be found. In that moment, the king understood. This can be a frightening idea. If I am not a self, am I nothing? This is not a teaching of annihilation. The chariot is still there. It carries the king. The river is still flowing. You are still here. The teaching of anatta simply says that you are the process, you are the flow. You are not a static thing, but a dynamic, unfolding event. You are more like a verb than a noun. To believe you are a separate, solid self is to suffer. Why? Because this little self we create is inherently fragile. We have to spend all our energy defending it from criticism, puffing it up with praise, and comparing it to other selves. When someone insults us, it is this phantom self that feels wounded. When someone succeeds more than us, it is this phantom self that feels envious. When an angry thought arises, we believe I am an angry person. When a sad feeling comes, we believe I am a sad person. We become imprisoned by our own temporary states. The liberation of anatta is the freedom from this case of mistaken identity. When you realize that you are not your thoughts or feelings, you don't have to be their victim. You can observe them from a place of spacious calm. When an angry thought comes, you can see it as, there is anger arising in the mind. It is an impersonal weather pattern, not me. This creates a crucial space. It allows you to choose your response, rather than being swept away by a reaction. It dissolves defensiveness. It fosters humility. It reveals the profound interconnectedness of all things. If there is no hard, separate boundary between me and you, then your suffering is my suffering, and your happiness is my happiness. Compassion becomes the most natural response. As you lie here on the edge of sleep, you can let go of the exhausting job of being you. Let go of defending your opinions, polishing your identity, worrying about your reputation. Simply rest as open awareness. Watch the clouds of thought, feeling, and sensation drift through the vast, open sky of your mind. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. There is nothing to defend, nothing to prove. There is only this peaceful, spacious freedom. We have journeyed together into the profound truths of impermanence and not self. We have seen that reality is a constant, flowing river, and that the separate, solid self we thought we were is nowhere to be found within that flow. A mind that has truly begun to absorb these truths finds itself at a crossroads, faced with a world where nothing can be permanently held, and with the realization that there is no permanent holder anyway. What is the most skillful, the most sane, the most peaceful way to proceed? The answer, the natural expression of this profound wisdom, is the gentle and powerful practice of letting go. This is not an act of passive resignation or cold indifference. It is a courageous, active, and liberating gesture of the heart. It is the art of opening the clenched fist of the mind, and in that opening, discovering the freedom and peace that have been available all along. First, it is vital to understand what letting go is not. It is not apathy. It is not giving up on your goals, abandoning your responsibilities, or ceasing to care about the world or the people in it. It is not a form of emotional suppression where you pretend you don't have feelings. In fact, letting go requires you to feel your emotions even more fully and honestly, but without becoming entangled in their stories. The practice of letting go does not mean you stop loving deeply, working diligently, or striving to make the world a better place. It simply means you release your tight, anxious, white-knuckled grip on the outcomes. You learn to participate fully in the dance of life, without demanding that the music play according to your specific, rigid preferences. The heart of this practice lies in a subtle but crucial distinction: the difference between wholesome desire and clinging. A wholesome desire, what is sometimes called chanda, is a positive, motivating energy. The desire for your children to be happy, the desire to be healthy, the desire to live a life of peace and integrity, these are skillful and beneficial. They provide direction and inspiration for our journey. The problem is not desire itself, but a state called upadana, which means clinging, grasping, or attachment. Clinging is what happens when a simple desire gets entangled with the ego and with fear. It is the thought, "I must have this to be happy." It is the feeling that our very sense of self depends on acquiring or keeping something. It is the fear of loss that lurks behind every possession and every relationship. Imagine you are holding a small, beautiful bird in your hand. A wholesome desire is to hold your hand open, allowing the bird to rest there, appreciating its beauty and warmth, while knowing it is free to fly away at any moment. Clinging is clenching your fist around the bird, terrified it will leave. In the act of trying to possess it, you crush the very thing you wish to enjoy. Letting go is the practice of keeping your hand and your heart open. We can apply this art in every area of our lives. We can begin by learning to let go of the past. So many of us are burdened by heavy sacks filled with the ghosts of yesterday. We carry around old resentments, replaying hurtful conversations in our minds. We nurse ancient grievances, keeping the wounds fresh. We cling to our regrets, punishing ourselves for past mistakes. To hold on to this resentment is, as the saying goes, like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. The only one being harmed is ourself. Letting go of the past does not mean you are condoning harmful behavior or pretending that painful things didn't happen. It means you are making a conscious, compassionate choice to stop allowing the events of the past to poison the present moment. It is the refusal to continue carrying the heavy sack. It is a profound gift of freedom that you give to yourself. We can also practice letting go of the future. Just as we are haunted by the past, we are often tyrannized by the future. We create elaborate, detailed scripts in our minds for how our lives are supposed to unfold, how our career should progress, how our relationships should look, how our children should behave. Then, when reality, in its infinitely complex and unpredictable way, deviates from our script, we suffer. We become anxious, frustrated, and disappointed. The practice of letting go of the future means releasing our attachment to these rigid scripts. We can still have goals and make wise plans, but we do so with a light touch, holding our expectations loosely. It is the wisdom of planting a seed, watering it, giving it sunlight, and then trusting the process of growth, rather than digging it up every day to see if it's following our plan. It is learning to adapt and flow with the changing currents of life, trusting that we have the inner resources to meet whatever comes our way. Perhaps the most subtle and liberating practice is letting go of the self. As we have seen, the self is a collection of ideas, memories, and habits we cling to. We cling to our opinions and feel the need to be right in every argument. We cling to a certain self-image, a smart person, a successful person, a victim, and we constantly seek validation for it. We cling to the need for approval from others. This constant effort of defending, promoting, and managing our ego is a primary source of our daily tension. To practice letting go here means to soften that grip. It means to value connection over being right. It means allowing ourselves to be a work in progress rather than a finished product. It means finding our security within rather than in the shifting opinions of others. Each time we let go of the need to defend our ego, a wave of peace and lightness washes over us. The Buddha told a famous parable to illustrate this principle with perfect clarity. A man was on a journey and came to a wide, dangerous river. There was no bridge and no ferry. Being resourceful, the man gathered logs, vines, and reeds and built a simple raft. He climbed aboard and, using his hands and feet, paddled himself safely across the turbulent water to the other shore. Once he arrived on the far bank, he stood up and looked back at the raft that had saved his life. What should he do now? A foolish person, the Buddha said, might think, "This raft was so incredibly useful to me. It saved my life. I must not abandon it." And so, he would hoist the heavy, cumbersome raft onto his shoulders and continue his journey, now burdened and exhausted by the very thing that had once been his salvation. But a wise person, the Buddha explained, would think differently. He would think, "This raft has served its purpose perfectly. I am deeply grateful for it. Now, its job is done." And he would leave the raft on the riverbank and continue his journey, light and unencumbered. The Buddha then explained that his teachings, the Dharma, are like that raft. They are an incredibly skillful and necessary tool for crossing the river of suffering to the other shore of liberation. But they are a means to an end, not an end in themselves. Even the most profound teachings must not become an object of dogmatic clinging. The ultimate goal is freedom, and this includes the freedom that comes from letting go of the path itself. As you rest here, on the edge of sleep, you can practice this profound art with every breath. Notice your exhalation. Each out-breath is a natural, effortless act of letting go. As you breathe out, feel the tension leaving your body. Let go of the thoughts of the day that has passed. Let go of the plans for the day that is to come. Let go of the need to be anything or anyone. Simply rest in the space that is created with each exhalation. Letting go is not an emptying, but a making of space. It is the creation of a vast inner stillness. And it is in this quiet, open space that the most beautiful qualities of the heart, like compassion and loving kindness, finally have room to grow. As we learn the gentle art of letting go, an open space begins to form within us. The ground of our mind, once choked with the weeds of grasping and aversion, is now clear. This open space is not a void. It is a silence waiting for a new sound, a fertile field waiting for a new seed. What arises in this space, what grows from this ground of wisdom and peace, is one of the most beautiful blossoms of the human heart. It is karuna, or compassion. If the first noble truth is the honest recognition that suffering exists, then karuna is the heart's tender, unwavering, and courageous response to that reality. It is the trembling or quivering of the heart when it comes into contact with the pain of another, a trembling that gives rise to the deep wish. May you be free from this suffering. It is essential, from the very beginning, to distinguish true compassion from its poor and distant cousin, pity. Pity stands at a distance. It looks down from a safe height, saying, "Oh, that poor person. I am so glad I am not them." Pity creates separation. It reinforces the wall between me and you, between the fortunate and the unfortunate. It is rooted in fear. Compassion, on the other hand, dismantles the walls. It is brave enough to come down from the high ground and sit beside the one who is suffering. It is the recognition of our shared humanity. It does not say, "I am different from you." It says, "I know what this feels like. Your pain is my pain, because we are connected." Pity is a feeling of superiority. Compassion is an act of solidarity. It is born not of fear, but of love, and the profound understanding that we are all in this together. Like a great and magnificent tree, compassion must have deep roots if it is to stand strong and offer its shade to the world. The taproot of all true compassion is self-compassion. In our culture, we are often taught to be kind to others, but we are rarely taught to be kind to ourselves. We can be our own harshest critics, our own most relentless tormentors. We replay our mistakes, judge our perceived flaws, and speak to ourselves with a cruelty we would never direct at a friend. To attempt to be compassionate to others while treating ourselves this way is like trying to draw water from an empty well. It leads to burnout, resentment, and what is often called compassion fatigue. True karuna must begin at home, within the landscape of our own heart. Self-compassion is simply the practice of turning the quality of compassion inwards. It is treating yourself with the same kindness, care, and concern that you would offer to a good friend who was suffering. When you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself, a self-compassionate response would be to say, "That was difficult. It's okay to make mistakes. It is part of being human and part of learning." When you are feeling pain, emotional or physical, instead of trying to ignore it or push through it, self-compassion is the act of pausing, maybe even placing a hand on your heart, and acknowledging your own suffering with tenderness. This is a moment of pain. May I be gentle with myself in this moment. It is the understanding that your own imperfections, your own struggles, and your own sorrows are not signs that you are broken, but signs that you are a member of the human family. To hold your own pain with this gentle, non-judgmental awareness is the most fundamental act of healing. It fills your own well, so that you have an infinite supply of water to offer others. Once the wellspring of self-compassion begins to flow, we can naturally let it overflow to the world around us. We start with those who are easiest to feel for, our loved ones, our family, our dear friends. When we see them suffering, we consciously direct the wish, may you be free from this pain. May you find peace. We allow our heart to feel their struggle with them, offering our presence and support without trying to fix everything. Then, we widen the circle. We extend compassion to neutral people, the cashier at the store, the person sitting next to us on the bus, the strangers we pass on the street. We can look at them and silently recognize, just like me, this person has known joy and sorrow. Just like me, they have worries and fears. Just like me, they wish to be happy and free from suffering. This simple act of recognition breaks down the illusion of separation and connects us to the vast web of humanity that surrounds us every day. The final and most transformative stage of the practice is to extend compassion to those we find difficult, to those who have hurt us, our enemies. This can seem impossible. How can we feel compassion for someone who has caused us pain? The key is to understand that their harmful actions are not a sign of their strength, but a cry of their own deep suffering. Happy, peaceful, and whole people do not go around hurting others. Hurt people hurt people. Their anger, their cruelty, their dishonesty, it all comes from a place of their own inner turmoil, their own fear, their own confusion. The practice here is not to condone their actions. It is to separate the action from the person. We can see the harmful action clearly and protect ourselves from it, while at the same time holding the person who performed it with a degree of compassion. We can see them as someone who is deeply sick with the illness of their own anger or delusion, and we can wish for them to be free from that sickness. This is an act of supreme spiritual courage. It is the act that frees us from the chains of our own hatred and resentment, allowing our heart to remain open and spacious, even in the face of hostility. There is a story that embodies the very heart of karuna. One day, the Buddha came upon a monastery where a monk was terribly ill with a foul disease, likely dysentery. He was lying in his own filth, and no one would go near him because of the terrible smell and the fear of contagion. His fellow monks had completely abandoned him. The Buddha, the great teacher, did not just stand at the door and give a lecture on compassion. He went to the kitchen and began to boil water. His cousin and attendant, Ananda, asked what he was doing. "We are going to care for this sick brother," the Buddha said. Together, the Buddha and Ananda went to the suffering monk. The Buddha, with his own hands, began to gently wash the monk's body, cleaning away the filth. Ananda helped to clean his soiled robes and his bedding. They made him comfortable and gave him medicine and broth. After the monk was settled, the Buddha gathered the other monks together. He asked them, "Why did you abandon this man?" They were silent with shame. Then he spoke these immortal words, "Monks, you have no mother or father here to care for you. If you do not care for one another, who else will? Know this, whoever would tend to the sick and the suffering is tending to me." As you rest in the quiet of this night, you can practice this profound tenderness. You can place a gentle hand on your own heart. Feel its steady rhythm. Acknowledge your own weariness, your own struggles, your own secret pains, and offer yourself the simple wish, "May I be free from suffering. May I be at peace." Then, let that gentle wish radiate outwards from your heart. Bring to mind someone you love and wish the same for them. Bring to mind a stranger and wish the same for them. And if you feel brave enough, bring to mind someone you find difficult and wish for them to be free from the inner pain that causes them to act as they do. Feel how this act of compassion softens the edges of your own being, melting the ice around your heart. This is the warmth that soothes the world. This is the love that heals. If compassion, or karuna, is the heart's tender response to the existence of pain, then its radiant twin is metta, or loving kindness. They are like two wings of the same great bird of love, soaring through the sky of awareness. While compassion quivers in response to suffering and wishes for it to end, loving kindness is the proactive, unconditional, and boundless wish for all beings to be happy and well. It is the sun that shines on everyone without exception, asking for nothing in return. Metta is the Buddha's direct, and most potent antidote to the poisons of anger, ill will, resentment, irritation, and fear. It is the systematic and gentle practice of transforming the heart into a safe and boundless home, a source of warmth not only for others, but most fundamentally, for ourselves. It is vital to understand that metta is not what we typically think of as love, in a sentimental or romantic sense. It is not dependent on whether we like someone or whether they please us. In fact, it is not a feeling that we must wait to arise spontaneously. The practice of metta is called metta bhavana, which means the cultivation or development of loving kindness. This tells us that metta is a skill. It is a trainable capacity of the heart, an intention that we can consciously and deliberately cultivate, just as an athlete trains their body. We do not have to feel loving to practice metta. We simply have to be willing to plant the seeds of kind intention. The feelings, in their own time, will follow the direction of our will. The practice traditionally unfolds in a series of stages, like ripples spreading out from a stone dropped in a still pond. And as you rest here, in the safety and quiet of your room, you can begin this gentle cultivation. The practice begins, as all wholesome journeys must, with yourself. We cannot offer a drink to another from a cup that is empty. We must first learn to offer this warmth and friendliness to our own being. So, bring your awareness gently to the area of your own heart, and silently, like a soft whisper within your own mind, you can begin to offer yourself these phrases of loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. You don't need to force a feeling. Simply repeat the phrases gently, letting their intentions soak into your being. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. This is not a selfish act. It is the essential foundation for all true generosity of spirit. You are acknowledging that you, just like every other being in the universe, are worthy of happiness and care. When you feel ready, you can let the ripple expand. The second stage of the practice is to bring to mind a good friend or someone you love and respect dearly. Picture them in your mind's eye. See them smiling and happy. And now, direct the very same phrases of metta toward them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Feel the natural warmth that flows from your heart as you wish them well. Let the goodwill radiate from you to them, a silent offering of friendship and care. There is no struggle here. This is the easy and joyful part of the practice, where the heart opens naturally. Next, the circle widens again. In the third stage, we bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see in your daily life but have no strong feelings about one way or the other. Perhaps a person who works in a shop you frequent, a neighbor you see but do not know, or someone you pass on your commute. You don't like them or dislike them. They are simply there. And to this person, you extend the exact same wishes. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. This is a powerful part of the practice, for it begins to challenge our habitual indifference. It trains our heart to see the humanity in everyone, to recognize that this neutral person is the hero of their own life story, filled with the same hopes and fears that we have. It is an act of dissolving the walls of separation. The fourth stage is the most challenging, and therefore the most transformative. Here, we are invited to bring to mind a difficult person, someone with whom we have conflict or friction. Now, this requires great skill and gentleness. The purpose is not to condone their harmful actions or to force yourself to like them. The purpose of this stage is to free yourself from the prison of your own resentment. You are doing this for your own heart's liberation. You can hold the image of this person in your mind, and with as much sincerity as you can muster, you offer them the same phrases. May you be happy. This simple wish can be a profound act of reframing. It can be the wish that they become so happy and so peaceful that they no longer have any cause within them to create harm. It is a wish for them to be healed from the inner suffering that fuels their difficult behavior. If this is too hard, you can simply start with, may you be free from suffering, and rest there. This practice is the ultimate alchemy, turning the lead of your own anger into the gold of a free and open heart. Finally, in the fifth stage, we let the practice become boundless. Having radiated metta to ourselves, a friend, a neutral person, and a difficult person, we now break down all the barriers. We let the feeling of loving kindness extend in every direction, to the front, to the back, to the right, to the left, above, and below. We offer it to all beings, everywhere, without exception. To all people, of all nations and all beliefs. To all animals, great and small. To all beings seen and unseen, near and far. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. In this moment, the heart becomes as vast as the sky, holding the entire universe in a tender, loving embrace. The power of this practice is beautifully illustrated in the story of the Buddha taming the raging elephant, Nalagiri. The Buddha's jealous cousin, Devadatta, conspired to have him killed. He arranged for the royal elephant, Nalagiri, to be intoxicated with alcohol and then set loose on the narrow street where the Buddha was walking. The elephant was in a terrifying, murderous rage, thundering down the lane, destroying everything in its path. People screamed and fled in terror. The Buddha's attendant, Ananda, tried to stand in front of him to protect him, but the Buddha gently moved him aside. He stood perfectly still, calm and unafraid, facing the charging behemoth. He did not prepare a weapon or a shield. He did only one thing. He radiated a powerful, silent, and overwhelming energy of pure metta directly at the enraged animal. The elephant, which was intent on destruction, felt this immense wave of unconditional love and goodwill. Its rage began to subside. Its charge slowed to a walk, and then to a halt. It stood before the Buddha, lowered its great head, and, according to the legend, knelt before him, tamed not by force, but by the sheer power of a loving heart. This story teaches us that metta has the power to tame the most violent energies, especially the raging elephants of anger, fear, and hatred within our own minds. As you lie here, ready for sleep, allow your mind and body to soften. Let go of the battles of the day. Bring your attention back to your own heart, the starting place of all metta, and just rest with that first gentle phrase, "May I be happy." Let it be a lullaby for your own spirit. Allow this simple, profound wish for your own well-being to be the final guardian of your mind as you drift into a deep, safe, and truly peaceful sleep. We have cultivated the ground of our hearts with the boundless warmth of compassion and loving kindness. We have learned to wish ourselves and all beings well. But as we open our eyes to the world we inhabit, we are met with a new kind of challenge, a subtle, pervasive, and relentless storm that the ancient teachers could never have imagined. It is the storm of the digital age. It is the constant, shimmering glow of screens, the endless river of information, the phantom vibration in our pocket, and the silent siren song of the infinite scroll. The monkey mind, once leaping between the branches of our own thoughts, has now been given a digital jungle with billions of branches, each one promising a new distraction, a new piece of validation, a new jolt of stimulation. In this new landscape, how do we find stillness? How do we apply this ancient wisdom to the most modern of dilemmas? The path shows us that the principles are timeless. We must simply learn to apply them with new skill and understanding. The first step, as always, is to see the problem clearly, to diagnose the nature of this digital disease. And when we look through the lens of the Dharma, we see that the noise of the digital age is a supercharged engine for Tana, for craving. Every notification, every like, every new email, every breaking news alert is a microdose of sensory input. Our brain, wired for novelty, receives a tiny hit of a chemical reward. It's a pleasant feeling, however fleeting, and because it is pleasant, we crave more. This is kama tanha, the thirst for sense pleasure, perfectly adapted for the 21st century. The phone in our hand has become the ultimate slot machine. We pull the lever by refreshing our feed, and we don't know what we'll get. It might be a picture from a friend, an upsetting news story, or an ad, but the intermittent reward is just enough to keep us pulling again and again. This creates a powerful and exhausting feedback loop of craving and temporary satisfaction, leaving us feeling perpetually distracted, fragmented, and strangely unfulfilled. We are not just using our devices, we are being used by them, our attention harvested as the raw commodity of this new economy. So, what is the antidote? It is not to smash our devices and run for the hills, abandoning the modern world. That would be an extreme, and the path is always a middle way. The antidote is to bring the quality of mindfulness to our engagement with technology. It is to shift from being a passive consumer to an active, conscious user. This means infusing our digital habits with intention. Before you pick up your phone, the practice is to take a single, conscious breath and ask yourself a simple question. What is my intention right now? Am I picking this up to connect with a loved one, to find a specific piece of information? Or am I simply seeking a distraction from an uncomfortable feeling like boredom or loneliness? This mindful pause is a revolutionary act. It creates a space between the impulse and the action, and in that space, we reclaim our power of choice. You may still choose to look at your phone, but you are now doing so with awareness, not on autopilot. This conscious awareness is supported by the skillful application of right effort, our four-part strategy for mental gardening. First, we practice the effort to prevent unwholesome states from arising. In a digital context, this is an act of wise curation. You have the power to turn off most notifications. You do not need to be electronically tapped on the shoulder hundreds of times a day. You can unsubscribe from email lists that clutter your inbox. You can unfollow social media accounts that consistently trigger feelings of envy, anger, or inadequacy. You are consciously and skillfully guarding the sense gates of your mind, choosing not to invite the digital storm into your inner world unnecessarily. Second, we practice the effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen. You will find yourself lost in a mindless scroll. You will get sucked into a pointless online argument. When this happens, the practice is not to scold yourself. It is simply to notice, with mindfulness, here I am, scrolling again. This is not nourishing me. And then, with gentle resolve, you simply close the app. You put the phone down. You come back to the feeling of your breath or the sensation of your feet on the floor. You abandon the unskillful activity and return home to the present moment. Each time you do this, you weaken the habit of distraction and strengthen the muscle of awareness. Third, we practice the effort to cultivate wholesome states. Technology is a tool, and it can be used for immense good. We can use it to listen to Dharma talks like this one, to read inspiring articles, to join meditation groups, to stay connected in meaningful ways with friends and family who are far away. Right effort here means consciously choosing to use our screen time for these nourishing, uplifting, and connective purposes, rather than defaulting to mindless consumption. It is using technology to support our path, not to hinder it. Finally, we practice the effort to maintain the wholesome states that are present. This is perhaps the most subtle practice of all. When you are experiencing a beautiful, real-life, momentous, stunning sunset, a deep conversation with a friend, the joy of playing with a child, or a petha can be an immediate impulse to grab your phone, to capture it, to post it, to share it. The practice here is to resist that impulse. The effort is to stay with the direct, primary experience. Savor it fully for yourself first. Maintain the wholesome state of presence without immediately trying to turn it into digital content. To be fully present for a beautiful moment is a greater gift to yourself than any number of likes it might receive online. Ultimately, this is about creating sacred spaces and sacred times. It is about reclaiming parts of our lives from the digital deluge. Perhaps the dinner table can be a phone-free zone, a place for conversation and connection. Perhaps the first hour of your day can be reserved for quiet reflection, meditation, or journaling before you plug into the world's demands. Perhaps you can take a tech Sabbath, one day a week, where you intentionally put your devices away and rediscover the world that exists beyond the screen. This is the modern practice of noble silence. It is not an absence of sound, but an absence of digital noise, allowing our own minds to finally become quiet enough that we can hear the wisdom of our own hearts. The goal is not to hate the technology. The goal is to establish a wise relationship with it, where it becomes our servant, not our master. As you lie here now, feel the simple, analog reality of your own body, your own breath. This reality is your refuge. It is always here for you, a quiet sanctuary that no notification can ever truly penetrate. Let this be your anchor in the digital storm, a reminder of the profound and unshakable peace that is always available when you choose to come home to yourself. Having explored the inner workings of our mind and the digital world it now inhabits, we turn our attention to another powerful force that shapes our lives and our sense of peace, our relationship with the material world. From a very young age, we are told a compelling and persistent story, a grand promise whispered by our culture at every turn. It is the story of materialism. It tells us that happiness is something you can acquire. It is a destination you can reach through purchasing. A new car, a larger home, the latest phone, a wardrobe of fashionable clothes, these, the story goes, are the building blocks of a happy life. We are taught to measure our worth by what we own and our success by the accumulation of possessions. And yet, if this story were true, our wealthiest societies would be utopias of contentment. We know this is not the case. We have only to look at our own experience to see that the promise often rings hollow, leaving us with a feeling of emptiness, even when our homes are full. The wisdom of the path invites us to look deeply at this promise, to investigate it with the same gentle curiosity we have brought to all else, and to discover where a true and lasting wealth can actually be found. When we examine the experience of materialism through the lens of our practice, we see it for what it is, a powerful engine for dukkha, for dissatisfaction. It operates on a principle that modern psychology calls the hedonic treadmill. Imagine you deeply desire a new object. Your mind becomes fixated on it, creating stories about how much happier you will be once you have it. This is tanha, the thirst, in its purest form. Then, the moment of acquisition arrives. You buy the object, and for a short time, there is a thrill, a jolt of pleasure. But then, something happens. The novelty fades. The new car becomes just your car. The new phone becomes just a tool. The pleasure subsides, and your baseline level of happiness returns to where it was before. But now, the thirst has been conditioned. To get that same thrill again, you need something newer, something better, something more. You are walking on a treadmill, putting in enormous effort, but you are not actually going anywhere. This endless cycle of wanting, getting, and wanting again is the very definition of samsara, the wheel of suffering, played out in the marketplace. The law of anicca, or impermanence, reveals the fundamental flaw in this pursuit. We are trying to build a permanent sense of happiness on a foundation of things that are inherently impermanent. The possessions we cherish will break, they will wear out, they will go out of style, or we will simply lose interest in them. To place our hope for lasting security and well-being in these transient objects is to build our house on shifting sands. The pleasure they provide is fleeting, and the anxiety they can create is long-lasting. We worry about them being stolen, we worry about them being damaged, and we feel the sting of envy when we see someone who has something better. Our possessions, instead of liberating us, can become a source of profound bondage, a collection of anchors weighing down our hearts. The path offers a radical and liberating alternative. It is the principle of Theodok Trituk, which can be translated as having few desires and knowing contentment. This is not a call for a life of forced poverty or grim self-denial. It is the discovery that true wealth is not an external acquisition, but an internal quality. It is the profound peace that arises when the fever of wanting subsides. Contentment is the realization that, in this present moment, you have enough. You are enough. It is a liberation from the tyranny of more, and an entrance into the spacious and peaceful kingdom of enough. When you are no longer constantly striving for the next thing, you are free to appreciate the abundance that is already present in your life. We can then begin to redefine our idea of wealth. What is true richness? Is it not a healthy body? Is it not a mind that is calm and at peace? Is it not the love of good friends and family? Is it not the joy of walking in nature, the satisfaction of learning something new, the quiet integrity of a clear conscience? These are the true treasures. These are the forms of wealth that cannot be bought in any store, and that no thief can ever take from you. The practice, then, is to shift the source of our joy. It is to learn to find happiness not in what we can get, but in what we can experience. The world is filled with an infinite supply of simple, non-material pleasures that are available to us at all times, for free. the joy of watching the changing colors of a sunset, the deep satisfaction of a heartfelt conversation with a friend, the feeling of the sun's warmth on your skin, the complex taste of a simple piece of fruit eaten with full mindfulness, the immense pleasure of creating something with your own hands, whether it is a garden, a meal, a poem, or a piece of music, the profound fulfillment that comes from helping someone else, from an act of selfless generosity. When we train our minds to notice and savor these simple, ever-present joys, our reliance on external things for happiness begins to wither away. We discover that we are already living in a world of incredible richness. We simply had not been paying attention. There is a simple story that illustrates this truth. A very wealthy merchant who owned many ships and storehouses was plagued by insomnia. Every night, he would toss and turn, worrying about his investments, fearing pirates on the seas, and anxious about his competitors. One night, unable to sleep, he went for a walk and came across a poor beggar, sleeping soundly on the stone steps of a temple. The man had nothing but the tattered rags on his back, yet he was sleeping with a look of profound peace on his face. The merchant realized in that moment that he was the poor one. He was imprisoned by his wealth, a slave to his possessions. The beggar, who owned nothing, was completely free. This story reminds us that our attachments are the bars of our own cage. The more we cling to, the smaller our world becomes. The more we can let go of, the freer we will be. Once again, the practice is to find the middle way. The goal is not to renounce all possessions and live a life of hardship. The goal is to change our relationship to the things we own. It is to see them as tools, not as trophies. A comfortable home is a wonderful tool for providing shelter and safety for your family. It only becomes a problem when it becomes a symbol of status that you cling to. A car is a useful tool for transportation. It only becomes a source of suffering when your self-worth is tied to the brand you drive. The practice is to use things with care and appreciation, but without attachment. It is to know the difference between what we need for a simple, dignified life and the endless desires manufactured by a culture of craving. As you rest here tonight, allow yourself to feel a sense of abundance. Feel the simple, profound richness of this very moment, the comfort of the bed that supports you, the safety of the room that shelters you, the miracle of your own body, breathing on its own, its heart beating steadily. In this moment, you have everything you truly need. Let go of the wanting mind. Let go of the catalogues of desire. Simply rest in the deep, quiet, and unshakable wealth of your own being. This contentment is the real treasure. It is the peace that money cannot buy. It is the happiness that is always, already, right here. Having learned to loosen our grip on the fleeting promises of the material world, we find ourselves better equipped to face a different kind of challenge, one that arises not from the outside world, but from the deepest, darkest corners of our own minds. This is the inner storm of fear and anxiety. Fear is a primal, powerful force. It can be a healthy response to immediate danger, but more often, in our modern lives, it manifests as a chronic, low-grade anxiety, free-floating apprehension about the future, a persistent feeling that something is wrong or that disaster is just around the corner. Our instinctual response to this inner darkness is to either fight it, trying to argue it away with logic, or to flee from it, distracting ourselves with endless activity, noise, and entertainment. But this path of wisdom offers a third option, a revolutionary and deeply healing approach, to turn around and gently, with great courage, face the darkness. It is the art of transforming fear, not by destroying it, but by befriending it with the light of awareness. The first step in this transformative process is to understand where most of our anxiety comes from. While fear can be a response to a present threat, the vast majority of our chronic anxiety is a story about the future. It is a product of the monkey mind, swinging into the uncharted territory of what has not yet happened. We lie awake at night, and our mind begins to spin tales. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my loved ones are not safe? What if I fail? We create vivid, detailed movies of potential disasters, and then we react, emotionally and physically, as if these movies were real. We are suffering from events that have not occurred and may never occur. We are being tormented by phantoms of our own creation. The practice of mindfulness is the act of recognizing these phantoms for what they are, just thoughts. It is learning to gently interrupt the movie and come back to the solid, tangible reality of the only moment that is ever real, the present. The invitation of this path is radical. Instead of pushing fear away, we are asked to turn towards it. Instead of distracting ourselves from anxiety, we are invited to become curious about it. This does not mean we have to like the feeling. It simply means we stop the exhausting and futile war against it. This is where the parable of the monster in the cave becomes our guide. A warrior, hearing tales of a terrible monster living in a nearby cave, decides he must destroy it. He takes his sharpest sword and enters the darkness. He sees the monster's terrifying shape and he attacks it with all his might. But with every blow he lands, the monster seems to grow larger and more ferocious. The more he fights, the stronger it becomes, until he is exhausted and defeated. A wise woman hears of his plight and offers different advice. "Do not take your sword," she says. "Take a lamp." The warrior, confused but trusting, enters the cave again, this time holding a simple oil lamp. As the light fills the cave, he holds it up to the monster, and in the steady, gentle glow, he sees that there is no monster at all. There is only his own shadow, cast upon the wall by the flickering torchlight of his own fear. Mindfulness is that lamp. To befriend our fear is to be willing to shine the light of our calm, non-judgmental attention directly upon it. So how do we do this? We begin by moving our attention out of the story in our head and into the feelings in our body. When you feel anxious, where do you feel it physically? For many, it is a tightness in the chest, a hollow knot in the stomach, a constriction in the throat, or tense, aching shoulders. The practice is to gently place your awareness on these raw physical sensations. Don't label them anxiety or fear, just feel them as pure energy. Is it hot or cold? Is it vibrating? Or is it a dull ache? Is it sharp or diffuse? We are investigating the sensations with the detached curiosity of a scientist. By doing this, we strip the feeling of its terrifying story. It is no longer the anxiety that means my life is falling apart. It becomes simply a sensation of tightness in the chest. When we can be with it in this way, without resisting it, something magical happens. The energy, allowed to be what it is, begins to soften, to move, and eventually to dissolve on its own. During this process, our breath is our greatest ally. It is our anchor in the storm. When the mind gets swept up in a tornado of what-if thoughts, the breath is the lifeline that pulls us back to the safety of the present moment. The practice is simple and always available. When you notice the spiral of anxiety beginning, intentionally turn your attention to the feeling of your breath. Feel the in-breath and the out-breath. It doesn't matter what your mind is screaming about. The breath is real. It is here. It is now. You can even say to yourself silently, breathing in, "I know I am breathing in." Breathing out, "I know I am breathing out." This simple act anchors you in your body, in the present, which is the only place you are ever truly safe. You are not trying to stop the anxious thoughts. You are simply choosing not to board the train. You are letting the train of thought rush by, while you remain standing, calmly, on the platform of the breath. Finally, we apply the profound wisdom of anicca, or impermanence, to fear itself. When we are in the grip of anxiety, it feels all-consuming and permanent. It feels like this is the new reality. But nothing is permanent, including fear. Fear is a weather pattern. It is a temporary cloud passing through the vast open sky of your awareness. The practice is to watch it as a meteorologist would watch a storm. The winds of anxiety are picking up. The clouds of worry are gathering. You observe its intensity, its texture, its duration, knowing that, like all weather, it will eventually pass. This knowing robs the fear of its ultimate power. It is not me, it is a state that is passing through me. By seeing its transient nature, you stop identifying with it. You are not your anxiety. You are the spacious, unshakable awareness that is capable of holding the anxiety and allowing it to pass. This is the ultimate transformation, the shift from being the victim of your fear to becoming the wise and compassionate host of your fear. You are no longer the warrior trying to slay the shadow. but the wise person holding the lamp. As you rest tonight, if a shadow of anxiety or fear should visit you in the darkness, try not to turn away. See if you can meet it with a new gentleness. Acknowledge its presence. Ah, fear, you are here. Feel its energy in your body, without needing it to go away. Anchor yourself in the steady, rhythmic reality of your breath, and remind yourself, like a gentle lullaby, you are a cloud, and you will pass. This is the path of courage. This is the path of peace. In our journey together, we have faced the great inner storms of fear, anger, and craving. We have learned to meet them with the light of mindfulness and the warmth of a kind heart. Now, we must cultivate a quality that is essential for all of these practices to take root and flourish, a virtue that is often overlooked and undervalued in our fast-paced world. This is the quality of khanti, which translates as patience, forbearance, and endurance. In a culture that celebrates speed, efficiency, and instant gratification, patience can seem like a passive, even weak characteristic. We are taught to want things now, and we become easily agitated by any delay. But from the perspective of inner wisdom, patience is not weakness. It is a profound and active strength. It is the quiet, unshakable power of a mountain that remains steadfast amidst the passing storms. It is the deep, silent force of a great tree that grows slowly but sinks its roots deep into the earth. Cultivating patience is one of the most radical and calming things we can do in an impatient world. True patience, or khanti, is far more than just passively waiting. It is the capacity to endure difficult situations, frustrating delays, or the discomfort of our own inner states without losing the peace and equilibrium of our minds. It is the inner strength that allows us to hold our ground with grace when faced with irritation. Think of the difference between a shallow puddle and a deep lake. A single stone tossed into a shallow puddle creates a huge, muddy splash. Its entire body is disturbed. A stone tossed into a deep lake creates a few small ripples on the surface, but the vast depths remain utterly still and untroubled. An impatient mind is like the shallow puddle, easily agitated by the smallest inconvenience. A patient mind is like the deep lake, possessing an inner spaciousness and stability that can absorb life's difficulties without being fundamentally disturbed. Patience, therefore, is not about suppressing our frustration, but about expanding our capacity to hold it in a vast and peaceful awareness. We can practice cultivating this inner strength in 3 essential arenas of our lives. The first, and our most frequent training ground, is patience with life's small annoyances. This is where we build our foundational muscle. Think of the moments that typically trigger your impatience: being stuck in slow-moving traffic, waiting in a long line at a store, dealing with a slow internet connection, or listening to someone tell a long story when you are in a hurry. Our habitual reaction is to tense up, to let our mind fill with angry and agitated thoughts, to fume with frustration. We are fighting reality, and in doing so, we are creating immense stress for ourselves. The practice of patience offers a different way. In these moments, we can use the delay as an opportunity, a surprise bell of mindfulness. Instead of focusing on the external frustration, we can turn our attention inward. We can notice the feeling of impatience in our body. Where is it? A clenched jaw, tight shoulders, a knot in the stomach? We can take a conscious breath, and with the out-breath, intentionally soften those areas of tension. We can simply be present with the moment as it is, without needing it to be different. Each time we do this, we are choosing peace over stress. We are strengthening our capacity to remain calm amidst the small storms, which prepares us for the larger ones. The second arena is patience with other people. So much of our interpersonal conflict arises from a lack of patience. We become impatient with our partner for their habits, impatient with our children for not learning faster, impatient with our colleagues for not meeting our expectations. This impatience is often rooted in a self-centered view that the world should revolve around our timeline and our preferences. The antidote here is compassion. When we remember that other people are not instruments for our convenience, but complex human beings with their own struggles, their own pace, and their own conditioning, our hearts can soften. Patience with others is the understanding that they are on their own journey. It is giving them the space to be who they are, not who we want them to be. It is listening without interrupting. It is explaining without condescension. It is forgiving mistakes, knowing that we too make them. This compassionate forbearance is a balm that soothes our relationships and brings harmony to our interactions. The third, and perhaps most crucial arena, is patience with ourselves. This is especially true when it comes to our own journey of healing, growth, and spiritual practice. We live in a world of life hacks and quick fixes, and we can bring that same mentality to our inner work, expecting instant results. We might meditate for a week and then become frustrated that we are not yet perfectly calm and enlightened. We might fall back into an old unskillful habit and then berate ourselves with harsh self-criticism. This impatience is a profound obstacle. Deep, lasting transformation is not a sprint, it is a marathon. It is a slow, organic process of growth. Patience with ourselves is an act of supreme self-compassion. It is trusting the process. It is understanding that there will be good days and difficult days, periods of rapid progress and periods of lying fallow. It is the willingness to show up for the practice, day after day, without being attached to a specific timeline of results. There is a wonderful story that illustrates this principle perfectly, the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. When the seed of this particular bamboo is planted, the farmer must water and fertilize the ground every single day. But for the first year, nothing appears above the soil. The second year, he continues to water and care for the ground, and still nothing happens. The third year, the same. The fourth year, the same. He has nothing to show for 4 years of daily, faithful effort. A less patient farmer would have given up long ago, convinced the seed was dead. But this farmer persists. Then, sometime in the 5th year, a tiny sprout finally breaks through the earth. And then, an almost miraculous event occurs. In the space of just 6 weeks, the bamboo tree shoots up to 90 feet tall. The question is, did the tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Or did it grow for 5 years? The answer is, it grew for 5 years. For those first 4 years, while nothing was visible on the surface, it was building a vast, intricate, and powerful root system underground, a foundation strong enough to support its spectacular and rapid ascent into the sky. Our inner work is just like this. The daily, quiet, and sometimes seemingly unproductive moments of our practice, the few minutes of meditation, the moment of choosing a kind word, the conscious breath taken while waiting in line. These are the moments we are watering the soil. We are building our root system. The results may not be visible for a long time, but we are creating the foundation for a strength and peace that will one day rise up within us with astonishing power. Patience is the act of continuing to tend the garden, trusting in the unseen growth. It is the wisdom that understands that all things of true value are strong tree, a deep love, a peaceful mind take time. As you rest here, let go of any impatience with yourself. Let go of the need to have it all figured out. Trust the slow, deep, and wise process of rest and healing that your body and mind are about to undertake. Sink into the patient rhythm of your own breathing, knowing that in this quiet, steady, and enduring presence, you are cultivating a strength that nothing can uproot. We have walked a long way on this quiet path together. We have cultivated a mind that is steadied by patience, and a heart that is warmed by compassion. With this stability and kindness as our companions, we are now prepared to approach one of the highest, most subtle, and most liberating teachings of this path. It is a concept that can sound strange or even frightening at first, but when understood correctly, it is the key that unlocks the ultimate freedom of the mind. This is the wisdom of sunyata, often translated as emptiness. Before we go any further, it is vital to be clear. When we speak of emptiness, we are not speaking of a cold, desolate void or a bleak nothingness. We are not denying the vibrant reality of the world. In fact, sunyata reveals the world to be more vibrant, more magical, and more intimately connected than we could ever imagine. It is the secret gateway to understanding the fullness of all things. To understand emptiness, we must ask the question, empty of what? The answer is that all things are empty of a separate, independent, and permanent self-existence. Everything we perceive, including ourselves, does not exist on its own, isolated from everything else. Its existence is entirely dependent on a web of causes and conditions that are not it. Let us take a simple flower. We look at it, and our mind applies the label flower. We see it as a distinct, separate thing. But the wisdom of Sunyata invites us to look more deeply. Where is the flower? If we peel away the petals, is that the flower? If we cut the stem, is that the flower? We cannot find a core flowerness that exists on its own. Instead, when we look deeply, we see that the flower is made entirely of non-flower elements. It is made of the sunshine that warmed it, the clouds that brought the rain, the soil that gave it nutrients, the air that it breathed. It is made of time and of the entire history of the cosmos that led to its seed. If we were to take away the sun, the soil, the rain, and the air, there would be no flower left. The flower is empty of a separate self. It is, in its very essence, full of the entire universe. This insight applies to everything. The table in your room is empty of a separate self. It is full of the tree, the forester, the carpenter, the iron ore that made the nails. You, yourself, are empty of a separate, independent self. You are full of your parents, your ancestors, the food you have eaten, the air you are breathing, the ideas you have learned, and the people you have loved. This profound truth dissolves the illusion of separation. It shows us that we are not isolated islands, but waves in a single, vast ocean of being. Our lives are intrinsically interwoven with all life. This is the great interconnectedness, the interbeing, that Sunyata reveals. This wisdom also liberates us from the prison of our own rigid concepts and labels. Our minds love to put reality into neat little boxes. This is good, this is bad, this is beautiful, this is ugly, this is me, this is you. We then mistake our labels for reality itself, and we suffer when reality refuses to conform to our boxes. Sunyata shows us that these labels are empty. An event is not inherently good or bad. Its quality depends entirely on our perspective, on the context, on the causes that led to it, and the effects that will follow. A person is not inherently friend or enemy. They are a complex, changing process, and our relationship to them is also a changing process. When we see the emptiness of our own concepts, we can stop fighting with reality. We can allow things and people to be what they are in all their complex, unlabelable glory. Our minds become less judgmental, more flexible, and infinitely more peaceful. There is a simple and profound metaphor for this state of mind: the usefulness of a cup. When we look at a ceramic cup, we might admire its shape, its color, the skill of the potter who made it. But what is the true essence of its cupness? What makes it a useful cup? It is the empty space inside. If the cup were filled with solid clay, it would be useless as a cup. It could not hold water or tea or anything at all. Its function, its very purpose, is defined by its emptiness. The mind is like this cup, a mind that is full of rigid opinions, prejudices, worries, resentments, and a solid, inflated sense of its own importances. Not a useful mind. It is a closed system. It cannot receive new wisdom. It cannot respond creatively to a new situation. It cannot feel genuine empathy for another because there is no room. But a mind that understands emptiness becomes itself empty in this positive and powerful sense. It becomes open, receptive, spacious, and full of potential. It is not a blank mind, but a mind that is free from the clutter of its own self-importance. This is the mind of a true scientist, a true artist, a true sage. It is the emptiness of this mind that allows for insight, compassion, and boundless creativity to arise. This is the ultimate freedom. If all things, including the self, are empty of a solid, independent existence, then what is there to cling to? What is there to grasp? What is there to defend with such ferocious anxiety? The whole project of the ego's desperate attempt to build a permanent, secure identity for ourselves out of fleeting thoughts, feelings, and possessionsis, seen for what it is, an impossible and exhausting task, like trying to build a castle out of mist. When we see this, the grasping hand of Tanha naturally begins to relax. the fear of loss subsides. We can finally participate in the beautiful, flowing dance of life without needing to control it or possess it. We can love someone with our whole heart, without the clinging that turns love into a prison. We can act in the world with courage and compassion, without being attached to the results. We are free to be present, to respond, and to let go. So, as you lie here, on the very edge of sleep, allow yourself to feel this spaciousness. Emptiness is not a concept to be wrestled with, but a reality to be rested in. Feel the space in the room around your body. Feel the silence that holds all the small sounds of the night. Feel the space between your thoughts, the quiet pause from which the next thought arises. Feel your own mind not as a small, cramped box filled with worries, but as a vast, open, starlit sky. The thoughts, feelings, and sensations are just clouds passing through. They are not you. You are the sky. Rest in this boundless, peaceful, and potent emptiness. It is not nothingness. It is the womb of all possibility. It is the very nature of peace itself. We have journeyed far. We have walked a long and winding path together. From the moment we first acknowledged the splinter of suffering in our own hearts, to the dizzying, liberating insight of emptiness. We have looked deeply into the nature of our restless minds. We have held the anchor of the breath, and we have watched the river of impermanence flow by. We have learned of compassion, of kindness, of the poisons of craving and aversion, and of the profound peace that comes from letting go. It has been a journey into the very architecture of our experience. And now, after scaling these heights of wisdom, after glimpsing the interconnected nature of all reality, we must ask the most important question of all: what now? What do we do with all of this? When the meditation cushion is put away, when this video ends, and when the noise of the world rushes back in? What happens when the phone rings, when the bills are due, when a car cuts us off in traffic, when a child is crying, when a loved one is in pain? Does this entire path simply evaporate into a beautiful but useless memory? This is the final, and perhaps most crucial, step of our journey. It is the movement from understanding to embodiment. It is the practice of walking the path, not in the pristine quiet of a remote monastery, but in the chaotic, messy, beautiful, and often frustrating marketplace of our daily lives. There is a common misconception about the spiritual path, a romantic image of a hermit on a mountaintop who has renounced the world to find peace. But the true purpose of this path is not to escape the world, but to engage with it more fully, more wisely, and with a heart that has been softened and opened by practice. The world, with all its challenges, is not an obstacle to our awakening. It is the very ground upon which our awakening must take place. The ultimate test of our practice is not how long we can sit in silent meditation, but how we behave when we get up. In the tradition of Zen, there is a famous series of 10 images, known as the 10 bulls, or the 10 ox-herding pictures. These pictures are a profound metaphor for the entire spiritual journey, from beginning to end. At first, we see a person, lost, searching for his bull, which represents his true nature, his original mind. He is confused and frustrated. Then, he finds the traces, the footprints of the bull. This is like our first encounter with the teachings, our first inkling that there is a way out of our suffering. He then gets a glimpse of the bull itself, a powerful and untamed creature. This is the raw energy of our own mind, the monkey mind we spoke of, wild and strong. The next few pictures show the struggle. He has to catch the bull with a rope. He has to tame it. This is the hard work of the path, the discipline of mindfulness, the moment-to-moment practice of returning to the breath, of cultivating the eightfold path. It is a struggle, requiring great effort and patience. Gradually, he tames the bull, and he can finally ride it home, playing a flute, a look of ease on his face. The practice has become more natural, less of a battle, but the journey does not end there. In the next stage, the bull disappears. He has realized that the bull, his mind, was never separate from him in the first place. Then, the man himself disappears. Both self and other, subject and object, have been transcended in the realization of emptiness, of sunyata. This is often represented by a simple, empty circle. It is a state of profound peace and non-duality. One might think this is the end, The ultimate goal has been reached. But there is one more picture, the 10th and most important picture. It is called In the World, or returning to the marketplace with bliss-bestowing hands. In this final image, we see a portly, smiling, simple-looking man, perhaps a wandering monk, walking back into the village, the town, the marketplace. He is not radiating a holy light or performing miracles. He is simply present, open, and joyful. He meets a fishmonger, he shares a drink with a stranger, he plays with children. His enlightenment is expressed not in his solitude, but in his connection. His peace is not something he hoards for himself on a mountaintop, but something he gives away freely through his very presence, through his simple, compassionate engagement with the messy, ordinary world. This 10th picture is our practice. This is our goal. To become this person, all the previous steps, all the concepts we have explored, from dukkha to anatta to sunyata, are simply the training required to reach this final stage. They are the process of taming the bull so that we can return to the world, not with a heart hardened by fear and reactivity, but with a heart made tender, resilient, and open. So how do we do this? We do it by seeing every moment as the path. When you are washing the dishes, you can be lost in thought, planning, worrying, resenting the chore. Or you can just wash the dishes. You can feel the warmth of the water on your hands, see the shimmer of the soap bubbles, hear the clink of the plates. In that moment, the kitchen sink becomes a meditation hall. When you are stuck in a traffic jam, you can feel your blood pressure rise. You can curse the other drivers. You can be consumed by frustration. Or you can see it as an unexpected opportunity to practice. You can feel the weight of your body in the seat. You can notice your own anger rising like a storm cloud, and you can choose to meet it with the anchor of your breath. The traffic jam is no longer just an annoyance. It is a laboratory for equanimity. When you have a difficult conversation with a colleague or a loved one, when you feel misunderstood or attacked, your old habit might be to lash out, to defend your ego, to win the argument. But the practice of right speech, of deep listening, invites another way. It invites you to listen not just to the words, but to the suffering behind the words. It invites you to speak with an intention to connect, not to conquer. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you act from a place of clarity and compassion, rather than blind reaction. Every interaction becomes a chance to water the seeds of wisdom in yourself. And in this practice, we are not meant to be alone. The man in the 10th picture is engaging with others. This points to the importance of what is called the Sangha, the community of fellow practitioners. A Sangha does not have to be a formal group in a Buddhist temple. Your Sangha could be a trusted friend with whom you can speak honestly about your struggles and your insights. It could be your partner, your therapist, or even an online community of like-minded people. It is anyone who supports your aspiration to live a more conscious life. Walking this path alone is difficult. We need friends who can gently remind us of our own intentions when we forget, who can celebrate our small victories, and who can simply sit with us when we stumble. And you will stumble. This is perhaps the most important thing to remember when you return to the marketplace. The path is not a straight upward line to perfection. It is a spiral, full of twists and turns. There will be days when your monkey mind feels like a whole troop of screaming monkeys. There will be days when you lose your temper, when you get swept away by desire, when you feel just as lost as you did when you started. In those moments, the practice is not to berate yourself. It is not to add a layer of self-judgment on top of the original difficulty. The practice, in that moment, is to apply the gentle rain of metta, of loving kindness, to your own imperfect heart. It is to say to yourself, it's okay, this is part of being human, let me begin again. The ability to begin again, with patience and without judgment, is the signature of a mature practice. The ultimate liberation spoken of in these teachings is not a release from the conditions of your life. It is not about getting to a place where you no longer have problems. It is a liberation within the conditions of your life. It is the freedom that comes from changing your relationship to your problems. It is the freedom of knowing that you can be with joy without clinging, and you can be with sorrow without despair. It is the peace that is not dependent on the world being a certain way, but is found in the heart's capacity to meet the world exactly as it is. So, as we conclude this part of our journey, the invitation is simple. Take this wisdom off the screen and into your life. Find it in your morning coffee, in the way you greet your family, in the way you listen to a coworker, in the way you feel the earth beneath your feet as you walk. The marketplace is waiting. It is your practice ground, your monastery, your final destination. Go back into it, not with an empty mind, but with an open heart and with bliss-bestowing hands. Do you remember where we began this journey? We started with the image of a person, running on a machine, running with all their might, pouring with sweat, legs burning with effort, yet remaining in exactly the same spot. The room was filled with every comfort, but the air was stale, and through the window was a silent, peaceful forest they could see, but never reach. That image was a metaphor for the modern soul, trapped in a cycle of frantic effort, chasing a happiness that always seems just out of reach. We have run like this for so long, but now, listen. The relentless hum of the machine has stopped. The sound of pounding feet has faded. The person in our story has slowed to a walk, and finally, to a stop. They step off the machine, feeling the strange, solid stillness of the floor beneath their feet. And then, they do something they haven't done in a long time. They walk to the door, open it, and step outside. They are no longer looking at the forest through a pane of glass. They are in it. They can feel the cool, clean air on their skin. They can smell the damp earth and the scent of pine. They can hear the whisper of the wind in the trees. The journey we have taken together, through these 20 steps of awareness, was never about running faster. It was about learning, with great patience and courage, how to simply stop. It was about learning how to open the door. This is the final, essential truth. The peace was never in the forest. The peace was in the stopping. The freedom was in the stepping off. Peace is not a destination you must strive to reach. It is not a prize awarded for a perfect life, nor is it the absence of problems or pain. It is a capacity within you. It is a way of walking. It is the quiet space you can find between two thoughts. It is the warmth of a compassionate heart that you can offer to yourself when you stumble. It is the unshakable ground of your own awareness, a silent witness to the endless parade of joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame. It is a home you can return to in any moment, and its only door is your own breath. The path has been laid out. The tools have been offered. They do not belong to a historical figure from centuries ago, or to robed monks in faraway lands. They belong to you. This journey does not ask you to become someone else, to adopt a new identity or abandon your life. It asks for something far more radical and far more simple. It asks you to return to yourself, to the quiet, clear, and compassionate awareness that has been patiently waiting beneath all the noise. The great journey does not end here. It begins here. It begins now. In the gentle rise and fall of your very next breath,